Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
You know what I want out of my wrestling? I want Bryan Danielson versus Yuji Nagata, and then a week later, Bryan Danielson versus Hechicero. Yes. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. That's what I want out of my wrestling.
Rich Crage.
The biggest wrestling story of all time, and these fans whoosh, right over their head. So they can go yeet, and share Samantha Irvin TikTok videos with each other. That's what we created. Those are the fans now. And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
I am.
Hell of a week.
I am Joe, I mean.
You are indeed Joe. You are indeed Joe, and I am indeed Rich, and this is the Flagship Podcast. Hell of a week of wrestling, I thought. There's been a lot of down weeks. There's been several weeks where it really was a labor to get on this show and talk about professional wrestling, but I am enthused by what I saw this week. There is going to be a lot of excitement about the world of professional wrestling. Did it help that I did not watch King and Queen of the Ring? Maybe. Does it help that I haven't fully caught up on Best of the Super Juniors and just watched, the semifinal night? Maybe. But you know what? There's a lot of wrestling I watched this week, and I liked a lot of it.
Hold on a second. You're all pumped up about the week in wrestling, and you're blowing off like all the big shit.
I didn't watch all the bad shit. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if King of Queen of the Ring was bad. I actually don't remember what the. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, because you took copious notes, and we're all locked in on Saturday for King and Queen of the Ring. I think it was Saturday, right? That Jeddah played host to the King of the Queen of the Ring. We'll get to that a little bit later, but yeah, it does help maybe, I think, to skip the things that are probably bad. That's probably a good idea.
I mean, we'll see if I thought it was bad, because that is true. I do have lots of notes on King and Queen of the Ring. The Dynamite quarter hours just dropped, literally, as you were speaking there.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I feel like this was an interesting Dynamite in terms of the quarter hours, because, and I talked about this on the Thursday Dynamite review, behind the paywall, $5 tier. I was very excited on that show. I really got into that gauntlet.
Those first 20 minutes, man. If people think that we don't love this shit, that you don't love wrestling, that got another thing coming, man. Or that we don't love AEW, or that we don't want this company to succeed, or we're just haters. We're dooming. We're always dooming. You listen to that first 20 minutes of that show and tell me how much we doom and gloom and hate AEW and want it to die and all this other bullshit.
I just want it to be good, sir. That's why I'm so hard on it.
How good was that?
Oh my god, how great was that fucking gauntlet? Good. Oh my god,
they could do that every week. Every week, just have the best wrestlers in the world, and I mean in the world. I don't mean best, because some people say best wrestlers in the world, and they just kind of mean like no, literally the best wrestlers in the world, the entire world, Mexico, Japan, anywhere. AEW can bring them all in, and that is a match that nobody else can do. No other professional wrestling company or sports entertainment company or anybody doing whatever that we want to call this genre, not a single other company can do a match like that Forbidden Door Casino Gauntlet. Nobody, not a single other company can do that, what they just did there. So they should do more of the things that they can only do and nobody else can, as opposed to doing stuff that everybody does and is done better by the competitors. That's my hot take there, but you may continue.
Yeah, well, what a just an incredible half hour of television that gauntlet was. But so these quarter hours are out, and I thought they were interesting because quarter hour 1 had the Money segment and also the start of the Swerve versus Killswitch match. So 2 people they're counting on to draw. And then, of course, you had the gauntlet to end the show. And I thought it was very interesting in watching the show that despite the fact that they had two Monday segments, they had a Monday, the championship celebration segment, and then later on, she had a match, right? So you had two Monday segments. You had your world champion in a match. You had a Chris Jericho segment. You had the Elite with a big hyped segment, determining the fate of the TNT title. You had Jon Moxley had a match. You had this gauntlet match to determine the next world title challenger. And what did they go with in the coveted top of the hour, quarter hour? They went with Don Callis offering Orange Cassidy a contract. That was fascinating to me, that with this show loaded with a lot of their top stars, right, that they went with that at the top of the hour. So I was super curious how that quarter was going to perform along with quarter hour one and along with the main event. So the quarter hour one started with 931,000 viewers, the typical high mark with the lead. Although the lead-in hasn't been doing as well the last. I don't know if you've been paying attention.
No, yeah, lead-in not what it used to be.
They're not getting as many viewers from Big Bang as they have been lately. But
have people finally decided to stop watching Big Bang Theory here in the year 2024? Finally, people decided, you know what? I don't know if I need to watch another episode of Big Bang Theory. I'm going to stop and do something else with my life. That's good.
That quarter opened up with a 0.29, 389,000 viewers. And then quarter hour two, as it usually does when it starts off big, drops huge down to 739,000 viewers and a 0.25 in the demo for the end of the Kill Switch Swerve Strickland match, essentially following the trend line. So I don't know. There's really no determinations to make on how Monet and Kill Switch did opening up the show. How about this? Quarter hour three. You can't make it up, Rich. You cannot make it up. Quarter hour three. The Chris Jericho TV time segment.
Yeah, the guy that nobody wants to see and everybody turns off their televisions according to my group chats. Yeah, what happened there?
That increased to 787,000 total viewers. Okay, which was the second highest total viewership on the show, not counting quarter hour one, which is always one that you have to throw out. And it tied for the highest demo number of the show,
of course,
outside of quarter hour one.
Of course,
with a 0.26. Rich, I repeat to you, nobody wants to see Chris Jericho anymore. Nobody wants to see the man. Do you want to know what happened in the very next quarter hour?
I'm going to guess people left. I'm going to guess people stopped watching.
The lowest total viewership of the show, 689,000 viewers, and the lowest demo number of the entire show. The only quarter that dropped below 300,000 viewers in the demo, and a 0.22 for the end of the Jon Moxley Rocky Romero match, and then a bunch of backstage promos, and so it wasn't a loaded quarter or anything like that. But if you look at these quarter hours, okay, there is a clear jump for Jericho's quarter hour, coming off of a match with the world champion, by the way. And then the biggest dip of the show takes place, bucking the trend line, by the way, okay, which usually doesn't dip for when the Jericho segment is over. You cannot make that up.
It's perfect. It's so perfect. You can't
make it up. And there's people who will tell you that Jericho's like tanking the quarter hours. They'll tell you that nobody wants to see Jericho. And once again, excluding quarter hour one, whatever you want to do with that, whether you think it's the lead in or, a lot of people, it's an outlier. It tied. Well, no, it did not tie. It tied for the highest. It was the highest quarter hour in the demo of the entire show with 347,000 viewers. Unbelievable. Okay, so that quarter hour at the top of the hour with Callis, it grew from that previous poor quarter hour and did a really solid number, 779,000 total viewers and a 0.25 in the demo. So it worked. I was very intrigued. Were you surprised they went with that at the top of the hour with all this other stuff on the show?
Yeah, it's because they did kind of load it up with all the, like you said, a lot of the other kind of consistent draws or top stars or whatever, and they went with an odd thing. But I guess it ended up working out pretty well for them, and maybe. I'm of the mindset that they have big things planned for Trent, and I guess Orange maybe a little bit more over than we think in that sense. And so, yeah, it seems like a tough choice. Like, it's not the choice I would have made, but it ended up, I think, working out pretty well, and I think putting a good spotlight on Trent.
Yeah, so then the next 3 quarter hours are essentially a straight line in both total viewership and demo. So everything held up well. That would be quarter hour 7 with the Monet versus Sky Blue match, plus a bunch of promos and the start of the Elite promo. That was quarter hour 6. Quarter hour 7 then had the end of the Elite promo and the Christopher Daniels stuff, along with the start of the Gauntlet match. And then the final quarter hour of the show, quarter hour 8, before there is an overrun though, was obviously the rest was the meat of the Gauntlet match. And then there was a 7-minute overrun, which was the end of the Gauntlet match and the post-match stuff. So quarter hour 6, 7, and 8 essentially all did the same numbers in both total viewership and demo, all within, a couple thousand viewers in both total and demo. So there's nothing to glean from there, other than normally the show will slowly decline as it gets towards the end of the second hour. And it didn't do that this week. It was essentially a straight line to the end of the show. And then the 7-minute overrun, which was the end of the Gauntlet match and the post-match stuff with Ospreay and Strickland, which was really only about 30 seconds of face-off between those two. So it was mostly match. A gigantic jump in total viewership from 772,000 viewers to 850,000 viewers, which would be the second highest. If you want to count this 7 minutes as its own quarter, as the 9th quarter, it would be the second highest quarter of the show. And 345,000 viewers in the demo, up about 20,000 viewers from the quarter hour 8, which would be second only behind Chris Jericho's quarter hour 3 in terms of in the demo if you throw out quarter hour 1. So my instant reaction here, show started big, followed the trend for quarter hour 2 with the usual big drop. The Jericho segment was a clear winner because it was a gainer in both total viewers and demo in a quarter hour that normally is either drops a bit or is a straight line. The end of the Moxley match was a big loser. I mean, that quarter just tanked. It's very much an outlier.
Yeah, it really is an outlier because you take that one out. That's really where the only trend line goes down at any point. Otherwise, it's pretty much a straight line, like you said. The rest of the show, and even really, I mean, you take out the first, the Money, opener, the first quarter. Pretty much the rest of it is, you're all within the same, total viewership, 40,000 range, somewhere in there. Even less in some cases. So that's the only one that's like weird. It's like 100,000 people just were like, fuck this, and left. But then most of them came back. It's strange. Yeah, it's a strange little outlier there.
Full ad break, always a factor. Should be noted too. Quarter hour 8 had 2 ad breaks. One was a picture-in-picture. They took a full ad break and a picture-in-picture ad break during the Gauntlet. And normally 2 ad breaks will really kill a quarter. And that's something that a lot of people, for some reason, even after all these years of intense studying of this stuff, will ignore for some reason. But even with those 2 ad breaks in quarter hour 8, that really held steady from quarter hour 7 and the start of the match. And then, as I said, on the overrun there, you see a huge jump for the finish of the match. So the Gauntlet was a winner. I think we could say that. The Gauntlet was a winner. It seems like the Callis Orange Cassidy segment overperformed, at least to me. And that weird quarter with the finish of the Moxley match and a bunch of promos, that quarter, did a 0.22, which was well below, every other quarter was 0.25 or higher. So I don't know what was going on between 8:45 and 9. I don't know where the hockey game was at that point. Remember, no NBA last night. But there was a hockey game, the Oilers and the Stars, with WBD competing against themselves. So I don't know if that would have had effect or whatever, but there you go. These were some encouraging numbers across the board. You take away the NBA, and Dynamite was up 10% in total viewership this week and up 4% in the demo for their show following their pay-per-view with no NBA. So I thought the wrestling ratings were really interesting across the board this week. NXT did a monster number. Yeah. 703 and a 0.24, up 7% in total viewership, up 41% in the demo. I think it was a 0.17 the week before or something like that. And a lot of people are crediting this Sexy Red.
Sexy Red. I am not familiar at all with the Sexy Red. I know you asked for her top 40 hit on our Discord, and you got several people that said, here's the top 40 hits. I'm not familiar myself with the catalog of one Sexy Red. So I guess I should familiarize myself, but I probably won't. And yeah, I don't think I will. So
I'm not going to ask you if she has a top 40 hit, because I asked if she had a top 40 hit in the Discord, and she does in fact have multiple top 40 hits. So this is a legitimate star apparently, but that's who's getting a lot of credit for this.
Yeah, people kept sending us a song called Pound Town. Pound Town. You're not familiar with Pound Town?
Not familiar with. Now listen, I'm familiar with Pound Town, but
some Pound Towns, but not this one. Yeah.
Why don't you go ask TLB if she's familiar with Pound Town, right? But the song, no, not familiar. It wasn't Tuesday night, Game 4 of the Wolves and Mavs. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, okay.
So they were up against the NBA.
Yeah, I mean that's a monster number. Here's something that's not a monster number. Raw did 1.69 million viewers and a 0.55. That's down 2% in both total viewership and demo. All these numbers courtesy of WrestleNomics, by the way. So Raw down again, and Raw has not been doing strong numbers to begin with, and they were down in both total viewership and demo again this week. Now Collision, you got to throw it out because they've been airing in all the weird time slots. So this week it was on TBS when it's normally on TNT going against NBA, and it did the artificially large number last week. And then it did the artificially lower number this week with the 415,000 viewers and the 0.15, down 21% in total viewership. Oddly enough, though, flat in the demo. Did the same numbers it did the week before in the demo. It's just the total viewership was down 21%, which I found interesting. Rampage got slaughtered week over week, and it did its lowest total viewership of all time because it was on 6 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. So that would be the explanation there for the 222,000 viewers and the 0.08 that Rampage pulled. And I think they're on at 6:30 in the afternoon again this week.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I've just given up and thrown my hands up and just say I don't know when it's on anymore. Luckily, my DVR catches it, so it's just a matter of making sure I have it recorded. When it actually airs, gun to my head, I have no idea if it's 6:30, 7:30, when it's on its normal time again. I have no idea. Probably, I'd assume relatively soon now that we're wrapping up the major parts of the playoffs here.
It's got to be it. Because
I would assume NBA's should be done by, at the very least, I mean, fingers crossed tonight.
Could be tonight.
Fingers crossed tonight for this Dallas Mavericks fan over here. But Saturday, I think, would be Game 6, and I don't know when but it shouldn't affect Rampage.
It's not going to go all the way to next Friday.
It's not. No, that would be quite the thing. And then I don't know about the NHL, but I assume they're wrapping up very soon.
That was game 5 last night. Okay. So again, that's not going to go to next Friday. So, so Rampage should be in the clear now, but it'll be on at 6:30 in the afternoon again this week. So expect another, ridiculously low number because, I don't think it's staggered or anything. So on the West Coast, that airs at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
I mean,
it's on at 5 for me. I'm driving home from work when Rampage is getting on the air. So yeah, I will not be watching the Rampage live. So
And SmackDown wasn't pretty. 2.147 million and a 0.56, down 2% total viewership, down 5% demo. And remember, they've been down the last few weeks, and that demo number is the lowest number they've done in a demo since December of last year. So, a mixed bag with the ratings this week. And, things will normalize again when the NBA and NHL playoffs wrap up, which they will very soon. As we said, we do this live on Thursday nights, and it's Game 5 of the Mavericks T-Wolves series right now. And if the Mavericks win, that's the end of that. So then the finals don't start for a full week. I think they start next Thursday.
June 6th.
So the NBA,
June 6th is when the finals start.
That's a week from today. So the NBA takes a full week off, even if the Mavericks win tonight. So, the next week's worth of wrestling starting today will not have to deal with the NBA. And depending how these NHL series go, I think somebody has a 3-2 lead in the Western Conference, and I don't know what's going on in the East with the Rangers and the Panthers, but both of those series will be wrapping up soon too, and then it'll just be Stanley Cup Finals and NBA Finals and a lot less head-to-head competition. Some of the shows will get lucky and avoid the competition night to night, the landmines of going up against those final series. But that's that this Jericho stuff is incredible. I mean,
every week. It's like you'd think it would be an anomaly.
People keep getting away with it.
There'd be an anomaly one week where somehow it's just down, but it's always up. It's always up. It's just one time you want it to be down, just so you can say, all right, it's fine. But the fact that every time it's up is just, it absolutely, it's absolutely hilarious. But according to Nap528 in the chat room here, the No Dope chat room says the only time NBA will affect AEW is during the finals, game 3 and 4, which are on Wednesday and Friday. So NBA will only affect one of the games, it looks like, so far for head-to-head with Dynamite. And then Rampage, again, would probably get hurt by, game 4 or whatever. But
they're telling us that the Dallas-Edmonton series is 2-2. So I'll take their word for it because, I do throw them on. I got the 4 TVs. I do. If I have a TV available, I will throw on an NHL playoff game. Am I locked in? Absolutely not. But so I whiffed on that. It's apparently 2-2, not 3-2 in the West, and in the East, I don't know what the hell it is. Let's look at this playoff bracket here.
Yeah, who do we got? The Florida Panthers and the Rangers, right?
Well, they're 2-2 also because the game 5's happening right this second. So, and I think that's 2-2. Yeah, and Stars Oilers is 2-2. So let's see when the rest of these games are in this series. I guess none of them can wrap up tonight. Tomorrow is Stars Oilers, so that'll go against. Well, that's right. That's why Rampage is being moved. So, but that'll go up against SmackDown head to head because it's 7:30 Eastern for Stars Oilers, and then I guess Saturday would be the Rangers, and then neither of these series can be finished by then. So then there would definitely be a game on Monday against Raw. Yeah, there'll be Florida, New York on Monday, and then against NXT, it'll be Edmonton and Dallas. And those will be the game 7s, if necessary. So really just against SmackDown tomorrow with Rampage being moved. And then if necessary, those game 7s will be on Monday and Tuesday against Raw and NXT. And I guess Rangers Florida will be on Saturday too, which could affect Collision a bit. So, and then that's it. Then it's just the finals of both leagues. And as you just noted, the NBA finals, what'd you say? The NBA finals don't affect AEW at all?
Yeah, Nap 528 in the chat room says game 3 would be a Wednesday and game 4 would be a Friday. So they would have a head-to-head finals game on one of the Wednesdays.
Guaranteed too, because it's game 3.
Right.
Yeah, so that'll be a slaughter. Because you're gonna have Boston in it too. So,
very likely you're gonna have Boston and Dallas, 2 pretty large media markets, and that's gonna be tough. Yeah, that's
Dallas
tough.
Big market. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Dallas is the worst case scenario for AEW. Although, the number's not going to be drastically different if it's Dallas or Minnesota, but you'd think it'd be a little higher with Dallas, just based on the size of the market. So, anyway, that's a impromptu look at all the ratings. We weren't even planning on doing that, but the quarter hours dropped, and I've been waiting on them all day because I was curious with those 3/4 hours. So I figured, why don't we shoehorn in the rest? So I pulled out my notes, and we haven't done a rating segment in a while.
Anyway. No, it has been a while. So let's dust it off a little bit. But plenty of else that we're going to get to on this here episode of the Flagship. We're going to go into the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Half of their semifinals are set. We'll also give you the scenarios for the other half of the semifinals to figure out how we're going to get to the finals here of the Best of the Super Juniors coming up very soon. Noah Limit Break 2, the match we talked about last week, 0-1 World Heavyweight title, Akitoshi Saito versus Go Shiozaki. We'll talk about that.
Did you watch it?
I watched the match. I didn't watch all of Limit Break 2, but I watched Saito versus Shiozaki. So I saw that match. Excited to talk about it.
Good. I want to see what you say about it.
Yep. Then we're going to move on to the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling because they had a gigantic Triple Crown title match just a couple of days ago. Yesterday. Yuma Anzai versus Kento Miyahara. So we're going to talk about that. I will tell you, Joe, if you're going to ask, I did not watch EC3 versus Riki Honda. So maybe that's why I enjoy wrestling this week, because I did not watch the NWA World's Heavyweight title match of EC3 versus Riki Honda. But I don't know if you locked in for that, but I guess that'll be a a tease for later when we get to All Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll also briefly touch on the AEW Double or Nothing Fallout. We obviously did instant reaction live immediately after the show on Sunday. So if you want a detailed 2 hour plus, just about 2 hours roughly, AEW Double or Nothing 2024 review and recap, we did that on Sunday night, talking about a very up and down show in a lot of ways. There was some good, some bad, some really bad. Not really any, in my mind, great matches. There was a couple of good matches, but we get into details about that and also talk about the samey finishes and some of the booking decisions that sort of annoyed us with Double or Nothing 2024. But we'll touch on a little bit of what's going on with AEW this week. TNA and WWE have a new relationship, I guess, sort of, maybe. We're going to talk about that with Jordynne Grace appearing on NXT television and now, set to appear at the upcoming NXT Battleground show as well. WWE King and Queen of the Ring from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Joe, I know you were locked in, so we will get your review of King and Queen of the Ring. Before we get to any of that, though, news bit here that came out earlier today. Bit of a, I guess you can kind of call it a bombshell. I don't know if it's
a bombshell.
It's a bombshell, right? You think this counts as a bombshell? I think it counts as a bombshell. I'm going to call it.
This is huge news.
This is gigantic
news.
So a huge turn in the Janel Grant lawsuit today, as she has agreed to pause her lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. The update to Grant's lawsuit. So this came after a request from the U.S. Justice Department, which is conducting its own investigation. So this is the quote from Ann Callis, Janel Grant's attorney. Ms. Grant has consented to a request by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to stay her case against Mr. McMahon, WWE, and Mr. Laurinaitis pursuant to a pending non-public investigation. We will cooperate with all appropriate next steps. Post Wrestling and WrestleNomics were able to get a statement from Vince McMahon's attorney, Jessica Rosenberg, who said, "We remain confident the evidence will prove Mrs. Grant's allegations are false, and her complaint is nothing more than a fabricated, vindictive narrative from a disgruntled former girlfriend." So we'll get back to the U.S. Justice Department thing in a sec. You may remember, in case you don't, we'll remind you here that in July of 2023, last year, federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant on McMahon and served him with a federal grand jury subpoena. This is when, if you recall, that Vince McMahon took his medical leave from the company after undergoing spinal surgery. So, okay. Let's call it a bombshell now, because it absolutely is. Janel Grant has agreed to pause her lawsuit because the U.S. Justice Department is saying we have a pending non-public investigation and we want you to pause your lawsuit while we do our thing. That's big. That's very big.
Well, the only reason they would do that is there's probably an indictment coming, and there's probably an indictment coming very soon.
Right? They're not doing this just because they think they might have something on this guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work.
They're closing in. Closing in.
Right. That's my thought. And obviously, I don't have a whole lot of legal expertise on this. I know we have somebody in the chat room here, Eric, who I was talking to a little bit earlier, who has dealt with some of this stuff in regards to Illinois politics, which we have multiple governors that have been in jail, so some after another. But that this is there's a lot of smoke to this fire. Now, what this all means, and so if people are ready to dance on the grave, maybe don't do that just yet. But it's something, and it's something significant. It's not just, hey, we might have a little something here and we want to look into it further. It's, we're, like you said, closing in on something. So you take a break on your thing because we might have something even bigger or something even more grandiose that we're working on here, and we're the U.S. Justice Department. So the fact that Ann Callis and Janel Grant agreed to take a step back leads me to believe that this is bigger than, it's big. It's a bombshell. It's an absolute, complete game changer for this entire lawsuit.
And could potentially help their civil case against him as well. So this is bad news for Vince. I think that's pretty clear, from that standpoint, because it sure look now this might not even be a surprise to Vince or his team. They may have known that this was coming. We all knew that this was a possibility. So this might be one of those things where it's like, it's coming, there's a possibility it's coming, but if you're Grant's team, you just got to carry on and and do what you got to do until if and when this stay occurs, and here we are. So I think this means that there's worse news. It's going from bad to worse for Vince in terms of the legal pressure putting on, because now, in addition to this civil case, now he's got the federal government coming after him for the second time. And is it the second time in his life, or is it more than twice? It's at least twice. He's had the federal government coming after him. So
yeah, what do we have? Two, I think.
Well, it's a steroid trial.
Yeah,
at minimum. Which the only reason he got off is on the technicality of the jurisdiction that the case took place in. Where they couldn't prove that he distributed steroids in. Now, where was it? Now, I think the case took place in Long Island, and they couldn't prove he distributed steroids in Long Island. He got off.
Right,
a total technicality just based
people
on
people
the
don't
location
know that. People don't know that. They think that there was another reason why he got off. But yeah, I think it was because obviously it was Zahorian, Dr. George Zahorian, that was at front and center with that. But he was a Pennsylvania doctor, so it was like, well, yeah, maybe they gave him steroids in Pennsylvania, but not where I think you're right about Long Island. Let me double check.
I think it was Long Island, and they were able to. It was pretty conclusive that there was steroid distribution taking place in Pennsylvania, in Connecticut at I believe at Titan Towers, but just not where the case. That's why these lawyers jockey for where these cases are going to be heard and where they're going to take place, because that factors into whether or not you're going to win or lose the case a lot of the time.
Yeah, so it was set to be heard in the Eastern District of New York rather than in Connecticut, where obviously the home base of WWE was, and at that time. And this was because prosecutors alleged that the distribution of steroids occurred in, or I guess on Long Island. This article that I'm reading says in Long Island, but that obviously then didn't quite work out for them. And
no, that's why they lost. It ended up being why they lost. So, but anyway, the point is, this is going to be, I can't think of another time, but the second time that the federal government's coming after Vince. And was he 78 years old now? So
yeah. And that's another thing about this, that if people are like, oh yeah, I can't wait to watch the, Vince McMahon perp walk or whatever. I don't, I don't know, man, 78. These things take a very, very, very long time. I don't know that
his mother's alive.
His mother is alive. You're right. Is she still? Is she? I mean, I guess, right? Yeah, we haven't heard that she.
I think she's. I haven't heard that she's passed. I heard his brother died, and a few years ago, Rod McMahon passed away a few years ago. But his mother is it? I know for a fact she made it to her 100th birthday, because Vince made a big deal about that. That was probably 2 or 3 years ago. If she's alive, she's like 103, 104, something like that. I don't think she's dead.
No, she did. She died in 2022, it looks like.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay.
Victoria Hanner, right?
Oh, well, nevertheless. Yeah. So she made it to what? Like
she got it. She was born in, let's see, let me find the year here, 1920, and made it to 2022. So that's a damn good run.
102.
That's a damn good run. So... yeah.
So, either way, she,
I'd assume that he put a few more things in his body than she put in hers, but regardless, that's, maybe.
Well, his genes, would indicate he could have about 25 years left. Then again, his father died relatively young. Wasn't his father only in his 60s?
I want to say, late 50s, early 60s, if I remember correctly, for Vincent.
Vincent J. McMahon died 69.
Oh, he was okay. So he's older than I thought. He looked older. He was one of those guys that always looked
sick.
Older. Yeah, he had cancer. So
he didn't die of old age. He got sick. So 69 was probably about the life expectancy in 84, right? For a man, probably somewhere around. He probably didn't die. Yeah, it's probably about average for that time. It'd be young for today. I think the life expectancy for a man in America today is 80 or something like that. So
yeah, I think it has passed that threshold. It's at least 80 at this point. So I don't know.
Yeah, but
it seems like a long time. I don't know if I want to be 80.
Yeah,
I know you want to be 80. You want to be old, but I don't know.
I'll go to 180.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I love life, man.
I guess it depends on your faculties and how you're feeling, and yeah.
Life's fucking great. I love life.
It's pretty good.
Life.
It's not
I love
bad.
life in general.
It's not bad.
You know, it's I have very, very few complaints. You know, I'm the guy that'll get hit by a bus. You know, you got all these mopes running around all depressed. They'll live to 100. Me, I'll step outside and get hit by a fucking bus because I love my life. Yeah, so I don't know. His father died at 69. His mother died at 102. But I feel like, they're closing in. There's all this chatter, though, that he wants to, get back in the game. By the time all this shakes out, and we all know he thinks he's indestructible, right? And, but who would want to do business with him, even if he, gets away with it, right? Maybe they're not able to indict him, or they can't, ultimately they can't pin a crime on him. And maybe he even wins the civil suit or makes a quiet fucking settlement or whatever the fuck, right? At that point, still, who would want to do business with him? With the level of these out. And here's the other thing, here's something I hope people talk about. This federal investigation might not just be regarding Janel Grant.
Correct.
Who knows what else they found? They
had phones,
confiscated
they had records,
devices.
They had devices, they have records, they have sealed records that they talked about. They have devices. Yeah, it's a very good chance that it could be much, much, much more than just simply Vince McMahon. And I know that a lot of people always and we talk about that always with the Janel Grant lawsuit, is that it's very easy and convenient for people to say the Vince McMahon lawsuit. Oh, the Vince McMahon lawsuit. Yeah. No. It's WWE, Vince McMahon, and John Laurinaitis. So you need to include all those in there. In this Department of Justice, very, very likely that it includes even more than simply just, okay, we got the bad man, the bad guy. We got the bad guy. That it could be, the thing that we talked about, that a lot of this case, if you really read the details of it and really dig into it, is less, it's obviously about Vince McMahon, but it's also about a culture in this company. And that is something that Dan Callis has preached a lot as well, is that this suit is yes, it's about WWE and it's about Vince McMahon, it's about John Laurinaitis, and it relates to Janel Grant, but it also talks about, an overall culture of that this is acceptable in a lot of ways in this culture, and that a lot of people just kind of turn a cheek or just don't even, bother to do it because it's just commonplace in this company. We've talked about it at length in this space on the Flagship, over the time of the Ring Boy scandal and Rita Chatterton and just a new Ashley Massaro and just a number of different cases that are out there. And that's just scratching the surface probably of what's out there. And we know that there's even more that are out there. We have NDAs that we don't have connected with certain people or whatever. So we know that it's much larger than just Janel Grant and just this case. And yeah, that I think is the interesting thing for everybody is, okay, does WWE now put their feet, because they've had it relatively easy in the sense that Vince, they kind of after this last time they were able to kind of send him away. He's, for all intents and purposes, done with the company, has nothing to do with the day-to-day, and they've been able to kind of wipe their hands, say, well, bad man gone, okay, move on, business as usual. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. we've asked for that not to be the case, for people to not let up on Paul Levesque, to not let up on the company, not let up on Stephanie McMahon when she's out there doing public appearances and stuff, not let up on anybody, because this lawsuit is not just about Vince McMahon. It's not just about John Laurinaitis. It's about much, much more. And I'm curious if this Department of Justice, like you said there, is investigating a little bit of the company in totality and what was in those records and what was in those devices and what were in those, different, whatever they have investigated. Would be very, very fascinating to see.
Yeah. And not only that, but Janel Grant may be the only one suing him. She may not be the only one. There may be other people closely watching how her lawsuit goes before they choose to attempt to sue him. And that doesn't mean that there aren't other women involved that are being investigated on the criminal side. Okay. Just because Janel Grant's the only one who's filed a lawsuit against Vince and the company doesn't mean that she was the only victim. We don't know. We don't know what the hell is in this case that the government's putting together. Who knows? It might just be this stuff with Janel Grant. It might be a wide ranging, and like you're saying, because it's, you just don't know. We don't know what's in the criminal part of the case. So, I guess the case rolls on. And, you know, today was, to me, this is a bombshell day in terms of the, you know, some weeks we don't have anything. You know, it's just that there's no movement on either the civil or the criminal side. And today we had big movement on the criminal side of the case. And it sure looks like there's an indictment breathing down his throat.
Yeah.
So we see where it goes from here.
All right. Well, now we'll just seamlessly transition into their the shows they did this weekend in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. All right. WWE, folks. Hey, let's transition from Vince McMahon's potential pending federal indictment to the paid shows of sports washing from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. WWE, get into it. King and Queen of the Ring. I did not watch these shows, Joe. I did not watch King or Queen of the Ring, so I cannot help you on this.
Here's the thing, Rich.
Yeah.
I'm a professional, and I can weave you into the conversation, so don't you worry about it.
Now, do you want me to set you up, or do you want to talk?
You just listen. You run me through the show, okay? You lead the fucking dance here, but I'm a pro. I'm gonna work you into the convo and make sure that Craich over here is involved. We know what we're doing here, okay?
Pros.
So let's get at it.
All right,
Did you just say gross?
Pros. I said pros, but yes,
I
gross.
think you said gross.
But also gross. King and Queen of the Ring. Liv Morgan defeats Becky Lynch to win the WWE Women's World Title. We're doing the Liv Morgan thing again. She's a heel now. She's aligned with Dom Mysterio, if I'm listening and hearing correctly. So yeah, how was this match? And maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Becky Lynch thing. You touched on it on Flagship Plus this week, over at flagshippatreon.com, $5 tier for that. We'll touch a little bit more about Becky here, but let's talk about the match itself first. Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch.
Yeah, so I mean, you pretty much summed it up. Liv, we're gonna try Liv again, but this time as a heel. We all know her babyface run with the title did not go so hot. She beats Lynch, whose contract is legitimately up. This is not a work, even though the company is really leaning hard into this and pushing it on their own social media. They're pushing it on their own television show. That kind of tells me, and I don't know anything, that kind of tells me that they think that ultimately she's going to be coming back. I don't think that they would be pushing this Becky Lynch contract expiration as hard as they are if they felt like there was serious danger of her leaving, especially if it was to go to AEW, which obviously long term that's where she would end up. That's not to say she couldn't do a short stint in Japan for either Stardom or Marigold or something like that, or maybe even if she was interested in it, doing like a short run in Impact, if that was something fun that she wanted to try. But, you know, obviously a star of her magnitude is only going to be able to be paid the money that she wants or deserves in two places. Okay, we all know that. So it just strikes me as odd that WWE, you know, if they thought there was a serious danger in losing her, I think that they wouldn't be so aggressive in discussing the fact on their own outlets that her contract was up.
Right. And doing very heavy-handed. Like she's doing boo-boo faces. She's walking away. Everybody on social media is sending her heart emojis and wave emojis and we'll miss you. And like it's a little too on the nose for me. I agree with you that I think the fact that they're laying out on this thick is that they have to think, you know, even if they haven't put pen to paper, that they think pretty confidently that we have her, even if she hasn't signed yet, even if she does want that little bit of time away, or I want to, you know, kind of get away for a little bit and maybe enjoy my summer and then I'll come back and I'll put pen to paper or whatever. But, you know, as you talked about in Flagship Plus, there's a danger in doing that too. There's a danger in that while she's sitting on a beach, you know, in July, she goes, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Let me go to Japan for a couple months. Until you put pen to paper, anything could possibly happen. So I think they're heavy-handed enough where they think that they have her and they're pretty confident they have her, but obviously they don't have her or else this free agency wouldn't be legit. And as it's been reported multiple places, it is legit and she is legit gone and taking a hiatus. So it's just a matter of when she puts pen to paper there again. But yeah, anything could happen when you're gone. Anything could happen when you're away and no longer under contract. I mean, it's you talked about it as well. The famous story that everybody brings up is the Brian Pillman story where, you know, he works Eric Bischoff into getting a release. and then just signs with WWF, and it's like, wow, shit, no, you're supposed to come back with us, and he's just like, yeah, I signed with them instead, and that's a classic. Like once you let that person out of a contract, anything could possibly happen, and that's where we're at with Becky Lynch right now. Even if I don't believe that, if I was a betting man, I would bet that she sticks with WWE, that she just re-signs there and comes back in September or October or whatever, after taking a little bit of a break or taking a summer off or whatever, comes back at the Royal Rumble or something like that would be my guess. But, anything can happen. Anything can happen once you're a free agent.
Yeah, if there's a danger in that, she could always look. She's probably gotten phone calls from literally everyone already.
She should,
from
it'd be malpractice if everybody doesn't call.
Absolutely. I'm sure she's spoken to Tony Khan. I'm sure that the TNA has given her a call. I'm sure maybe Rossi Ogawa has reached out. I'm sure she's heard from everybody because they could legally talk to her, and she's free and clear. She could show up on Collision on Saturday if she wanted to. She could do whatever she wants. Maybe Court Bauer put in a call, Rich.
Yeah, of course. The world never. Hey, Battle Riot's coming up, man. That's what the hell. That's Violent J's in that thing. All the stars of MLW are in that thing, and
get her in there with Del Miexo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It counts down, and there's Rebecca Quinn coming out in MLW. Yeah. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Maybe she has always coveted the MLW featherweight title or whatever.
Yeah,
they
right.
call the women's title.
Take down one half of Sea Stars and show her, right?
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think that they probably have some kind of handshake deal. She probably wants to take a few. Look, she's got a new baby. I guess not a new baby, but that kid's still a toddler at minimum, right? How old's their kid? 1 or 2? Something like that?
Pretty young. Maybe 2. Maybe 2 at this point.
Yeah. She wants to see her kid grow up a little bit, right? And spend some time with her young child. And, and maybe she's told them, hey, look, I just want some time off and I'll be back. And maybe she means that, but you never know. Tony Khan might have the right combination of words that sway her, or the right number of zeros on a contract offer that are enough to sway her, so you never know. But just by the nature of the way they've presented her free agency, it sure seems like they're confident that she'll be back. As for Liv Morgan, she beats her for the title here, and then they have the cage match the next night on Raw with the preposterous finish with Braun Strowman running into the door, knocking Becky backwards. Liv escapes. Just a preposterous finish to, a silly little match.
The way you describe it, imagine that somebody is not caught up with WWE news. Describe what happened again, because it's all, you're not making any of that up. But describe what happened again. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like a Mad Lib.
Well, that's just what I said. I mean, the door hit her in the head. It wasn't exactly Freebirds and Von Erichs and Christmas '82, and then Liv got out and she wins, and she's a heel now, and she's doing the deal with Dom, and they're probably building towards Liv and Rhea Ripley, probably for SummerSlam. I would assume that that's where that match will take place. Now what I found interesting too was after the Saudi show, there was this video going around, maybe on the TikTok, Rich. Are you on the TikTok? Rich?
I am not on the TikTok. Well, I'm sort of on the TikTok, but I'm not on the TikTok.
May have been on the TikTok. I don't know. But there was a video going around of Liv Morgan in the back, out of character, with the title, weeping and crying, giving old Papa H a hug. And I'm just watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck is she crying? Right? First of all, this is all work. Okay, you're not the fucking legitimate, you didn't win a UFC title. But here's the thing. Look, I can excuse it if it's your first time. Maybe Liv Morgan grew up watching fucking I don't know, Barbara Bush and fucking Candice Michelle dreaming of being WWE
BB
champion. And
BB.
Amazing. That's the first one I thought of.
Yeah. Barbara Bush. The buxom
Most
nurse.
people are probably thinking, why are you talking about the ex-person?
Right. I should just in case. Yeah, this is not the former first woman, Barbara Bush. This is the largely endowed, the buxom beauty, Barbara Bush, Nurse BB, who
So who would she have grown up watching? Like Ashley Massaro, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, how old is Liv? Let's see how old Liv is.
She's got to be 30, 31, something like that.
Yeah, let's see. Oh man, she was born in 1994. So when When would you say you came to be, like 2004, right? You'd come.
So let's say 20
like 10
years.
Like 10 years?
She was 10.
10. Okay.
We'll say she was 10.
Okay.
So that would
about
be
when
2000.
that'd be 2004. Yeah. So we're like Candice Michelle.
Yeah.
Like kind
Maybe
of Trish. Yeah. Yeah.
Trish was kind of finishing up, wasn't she?
She was just about done. Yeah. This is when she's doing her heel run. So yeah, heel
So anyway.
Trish, Candice Michelle, Nydia. I guess it's like, you're right. Like
maybe Victoria or something. But
yeah.
Carmella. She grew up watching.
Not that
so
Carmella.
Maybe
the first Carmella. Not that Carmella. No, there was another Carmella. Do you remember that Carmella?
The one where Orton shit in her bag. That one.
Well, you have to be more specific.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. He's shitting a lot of bags.
He's shitting a lot of bags. You need to be a little bit more specific. No, I forget her.
Yeah.
She was a Diva Search winner or alum or something like
Carmella
that. I forget.
Scala.
Some crazy Italian name.
Wasn't she banging Jeff Garcia?
Yes,
from the 49ers?
yes, that's
Is that
her.
who you're talking about?
I think she was not only banging, I believe she was married to Jeff Garcia at some point.
Okay. Well, all right, sorry, I disrespected them.
Yeah,
Wasn't she
please.
Married to Jeff Garcia?
Yes, that's her.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know why that's as bad as Barbara Bush. Why would you bring her up?
I always remember Carmella. So
she was there for like 8 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right,
I always remember Carmella for some reason.
Anyway, so maybe Liv Morgan grew up watching all these people and dreamed of being a WWE superstar, right, and winning the women's title. And I get it. Maybe the first time you win that title, it's like all of your dreams have come true and it's just emotional. Rich, she's already did that. Like, she won the title already. She's been in the company for like, what, 8 years? How long has she been in the company? Okay. She's won the title already. You're telling me that winning this title again in Saudi Arabia as a heel, because Becky Lynch is leaving the company, and you're emotional and brought to tears over this? I find it fucking weird.
I think she also had her injury and then she got arrested or whatever. So maybe this is like I finally made it back to the mountaintop or whatever. I found
mountaintop? You're a fucking mid-carder. You're a mid-carder.
I found, here we go. I found a post on her Instagram. Yeah, only live once on Instagram, tagged location from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which is fantastic. It says, quote, "Tomorrow is for me. Tomorrow is for my revenge. Tomorrow I finally beat Becky Lynch. Tomorrow I take what Rhea Ripley loves most. Tomorrow is for my redemption. Tomorrow I become your new women's world champion." Cry about it. She said cry about it. As she shared.
Storyline. That's
she shared images of her shoulder surgery and rehab, or whatever her problem was. I think it was shoulder.
Okay, well, all right. Everyone's gonna get mad at me anyway for mocking this but I don't understand what's so emotional about it. I don't understand. Anyway, so I don't know. She's the champ. She's probably headed to a match with Rhea Ripley. They're doing this love triangle thing with Dom. It's just, it's the complete antithesis of what I want out of wrestling. I think everybody understands that and knows that. So it's a silly little storyline and a silly little company. I don't know. We've spent way too much time on this already. What's next?
Move on to a triple threat match for the WWE Intercontinental title. Sami Zayn defeating Bronson Reed and Chad Gable to retain the title.
All right. So again, the action here was fine. The finish was preposterous. It was just silly, dumb shit. It was Chad Gable. They're doing this thing now where he's running down Otis and mistreating him. And you've seen this storyline a million times. Gable's a bully. Otis is sympathetic. And we're just waiting around for Otis to turn on Chad.
Right.
Gable.
Maxine's caught in the middle. Yeah, it's classic.
It's so derivative and dumb. And I guess if you're new to wrestling, you might not have seen many stories like this. Rich, we've been around the block a few times. I don't ever want to see a story like this again. I'm so tired of shit like this. It's so corny. You saw the finish coming a mile away as a result. I'm not into these cartoonish type of characters, but this is why we're so disconnected with WWE, because you get shit like this. I don't find it entertaining at all. I find Otis, as you know, very off-putting. He's been one of my least favorite wrestlers in the world, basically since he debuted. And, if Chad Gable sticks around, because now there's this report that his contract is coming due, so who the fuck knows? We're going to get an Otis Chad Gable feud at some point with Otis as the big time babyface. So Zayn does retain. The action was good, but again, the finish to me was just, I don't know. I was over these finishes in 1988. These type of storylines in 1988. Now I want to talk about this for a second. as the news breaks that Chad Gable's contract is coming due, and again, I don't think for 1 second he's leaving either. There's this theory, and I can't take credit for it. It was someone in our Discord whose username escapes me, and I apologize to the guy or girl that it is. It's just their username is very non-distinctive. It's just a series of letters, and I don't. But a few weeks ago, they planted a seed with me and made a very good point. Do you think, we've seen this with Kevin Owens, and actually they're doing it again with Kevin Owens, where his contract's coming due soon. We saw it with Seth Rollins. We saw it with Drew McIntyre. We'll leave Becky out of this for a minute because her situation's a little different. We're seeing it with Chad Gable, although he's not the level of star of some of these other people. Do you think there's something to WWE, and it's always the same outlet reporting it too, if you notice, when someone's contract is coming due? Do you think it's a situation where WWE is leaking that some of these contracts are coming due when they know it's pretty much a formality that these people are going to sign, so that when they do re-sign these people, particularly the big stars like Seth Rollins and Drew, that it looks like a W.
Right. It looks like it was a bidding war and they won the bidding war because
they won.
Because there's been real bidding wars and they've been losing all of them. So now kind of in a way sort of fabricating bidding wars for these, free agents and then actually scooping them up and signing them anyway.
Correct. That's the theory, that they've been getting their ass kicked in the free agent market. Money, Will Ospreay, Okada, you go right down the line. So in order to not keep looking like you're getting destroyed in the free agent market, you fabricate these bidding wars that don't really exist because that it's safe, because these people are you have them in the bag. Like there was no danger. They know that there was no danger of losing Seth Rollins. So, or maybe they know that, re-signing Chad Gable is a mere formality at this point. So they make sure they get that leaked, and they make sure that hits the public, that these people are going to be free agents. So then they can make a big deal out of it when they re-sign them. I think there's some validity.
There is. It's interesting, and what's also interesting too is the names that get brought up and the names of people that have expired. And I don't know what all the names. I don't have a complete list in front of me, but it does seem like a lot of the names to play. Put the tinfoil hat on and kind of play up with this conspiracy. Is it a lot of times the names that are getting floated are people that you could reasonably think that an AEW would want. You know what I mean? It's not like some random ass dude that there's no chance in hell that AEW is going to say, we don't really care. We don't really need that guy, or that's not. Right. But it's people like a Drew McIntyre. It's people like a Chad Gable. It's people like, Becky, we can throw out of here, but it's like a Seth Rollins. Yeah, big stars, but also
Kevin Owens.
But also work ratey people too.
Yes.
Big stars that have work rate to them too. Like a Chad Gable is one that would you could buy that AEW would make a play for Chad Gable if they had an opportunity to make a play for Chad Gable.
Right. People who would fit the culture of that company, and people where shows like us are going to come on the air and say, "Oh, could Becky take a call from Tony Khan?" Like that's the whole point. You do it with people like that, so then it looks like you scored the win because they take nothing but L's on the real free agent scene. And as you can see, Triple H is very touchy about that subject because the one and only time that he was asked about it, he attacked the three people that signed with AEW and questioned their work ethic, which was a very, I thought. It's just a total lack of class from Levesque to go after the work ethic of three people who everyone thinks have super high work ethics, right? And he didn't even go after, I don't even want to come up with an example, but he went after three people who everyone acknowledges are three of the hardest workers around.
Right, including the hardest worker in professional wrestling, Will Ospreay, who will wrestle anywhere.
There's no one that works harder than him.
He'll wrestle anywhere against anybody, anytime, and has done that for the last 3 years, basically, nonstop working across the world over the last 3 years. So to call his work ethic into question is certainly interesting. So I don't know. It's an interesting theory. It definitely is, and I don't know if I know enough about it. I don't know if I know enough about the contract structure. I don't really follow WWE contracts all that much. I know when reports trickle out here and there, we know, but there's some other people that are more in tune with them. But it does seem interesting that the news, and like you said, very specific sources tend to report the contract expirations happening a little bit more frequently than we used to know about these contract expirations. And it's it's all people that, again, you could reasonably assume that would be a bidding war. It's not like Baron Corbin. there'd be no point in floating out Baron Corbin out there in this conspiracy theory, because it's like, well, AEW's not going to take Baron Corbin, but someone like a Chad Gable, yeah, that does make sense that there would begin a bidding war for him, and instead, he would go back to WWE or whatever. Yeah, it's an interesting theory. I don't know.
I think there's something to it, because it makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense in terms of the way that the current company operates, because you can't even say, oh, well, why would a company of this size that's making this much money waste their time engaging in such games? This is a company that will send
a lot of games.
This is a company that will send ratings information to Wrestling News Co. And to Alfred Kunua. I mean, you don't think that they would engage in this? Of course they would. This is exactly it totally fits the profile of the types of games that they do engage in. So I could totally see them fabricating free agency wars that are in actuality sandbagged wins that they know that the W's that they already know that they're going to take. So they don't look as bad in the free agency market, because they lose almost every single time when there's a real free agent battle. So anyway, I do think it's an interesting theory. The other thing is, we had another 6-match pay-per-view here. Okay. So before we move on to the next match, Rich, did you happen to see, the answer is probably no. Did you see Mason Mansoor on Maven Huffman's YouTube channel?
I did not.
Did you happen to see?
I did not.
Okay. This is good then, because this will be news to you also, and you're going to find it very interesting. Okay. They were discussing the differences in pay in WWE from Maven's time in the company and today, because obviously Mason Mansoor were just there. They just got released a couple of months ago. And Maven was discussing how in his time you had a downside guarantee. Let's say your downside guarantee was $150,000 a year, right? How that would work is you were guaranteed to make $150,000. When you got that check every 2 weeks or every month, however often you get paid, it was going to be based on that 150. Even if you sat home that entire pay period, even if you had a broken leg and did nothing, you were making $150,000 a year. Now, if you worked, if you did a house show loop, okay, you would get paid in addition to that downside based on your slot on the card as determined by either Jim Ross or whoever was running that stuff during a given period. Now, it would be, totally up to that person. It would be totally arbitrary what your spot on the card was, right? But Jim Ross, who definitely had that job at one point, so let's use him as the example, would decide, okay, you were third from the top. You were the main event. You were the second match. You were the opening match. And then you would get a percentage of the gates of those house shows based on your slot on the card, right? And that would get added on to your pay. If you worked a pay-per-view, you'd get a taste, and that would get added on to your pay. If you were owed merch money for your t-shirts, that would get added on. If you earned royalties from being on DVDs, which they don't really have anymore, that would get added on your pay. So that downside would be the bare minimum you were going to make. And in almost every case, 99.9% of cases, you would make well above and beyond that, because you'd be getting a piece of the house shows, you'd be getting a piece of the pay-per-views, you'd be getting royalties, you'd be getting merch, you'd be getting every time you got booked on TV, you get a piece. And you could see how that would be, how the top guys from that era would fucking clean up, and why they're all millionaires today, right? Because they're making huge downsides on top of, getting paid every time they show up to work, right? That was the old way. Rich, it's going to blow your fucking mind how they get paid now, with the company making more money than they've ever had before. Every time they have an earnings call, it's a fucking new record in terms of revenue and how much money they're making. So as Mason Mansoor explained it, you still have a downside. Everyone still has a downside guarantee in their contract. Same as before. You don't work a single day, you're making that downside. Let's say it's $200,000 a year. You're going to make that $200,000 no matter what. Whether you're hurt, whether you're not booked, no matter what. Here's the difference, okay? What they have now is something called the bucket system. Here's how the bucket system works. Let's say you work a house show loop. That doesn't automatically get tacked on to your downside. The money, which is still arbitrarily decided, by the way, that you earn on a house show loop or working a pay-per-view or working a TV, it goes into your bucket. And you have to fill your bucket with another arbitrary amount of money that they don't even tell you what it is before you earn on top of your downside. You have to fill the bucket, and then the bucket has to overflow. And then you make the overflow of the bucket. So you can work an entire house show loop. You can get booked on TV. You can work a pay-per-view in a given pay period, and that might not fill your bucket. And in that case, you still just make your downside.
Oof.
Rich, I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
So you have to overflow your bucket.
You have to overflow your bucket.
If you just fill your bucket, you don't get anything.
Correct.
If
you just get your downside.
You're an art, and they don't know what their bucket is.
You don't know what, yeah. And
you're just
according
guessing.
It's just an arbitrary figure. Now, here's the other thing they said. They said, what's funny is, right, it'll get towards the end of the pay period or whatever, and you might mysteriously get yanked off the road.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, we don't need you on these last few shows, or we don't stop coming to TV. We don't need you for TV. Oh, we're going to do, put someone else. And the idea is when you start to fill that bucket, if you're like an undercard, like the main eventers, that's a different deal.
Their bucket's going to be full a lot.
Their bucket is full immediately, and they're getting paid. But when you're Mace or Mansoor or somebody on that level, you'd get mysteriously pulled off the road. You'd stop getting booked. You'd be told not to come to TV, and you would never overflow that fucking bucket. Okay? Isn't that fucking amazing that they're making more money than ever, yet they found a way to pay everybody less?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Oh, no. I mean, remember when a certain current independent contractor at that company, one Phil Brooks, CM Punk, brought that up, and I discussed it at length during the my WWE Network. I've written a couple pieces on our Patreon about WWE Network, and he was one of the guys very vocal about, okay, we were used to get paid via the pay-per-views, and we would get a percentage of all pay-per-views. And that used to be a big payday. That was a huge payday for everybody. Is we got, we sold X amount of pay-per-views, and we're all going to get, anybody that was on the pay-per-view gets, this amount or whatever. What now happens with the network? And they launched this thing around WrestleMania, and they just said, we'll tell you eventually. Or, we'll figure it out. And he said, well, can anybody kind of give us an idea of what the hell we're going to do here? And they just kind of said nothing. And that was a big issue with him, and a big reason why, he kind of blew up and exploded the way he did and left the company the way he did. And it seems like they never really, they kind of little by little, like you said, got rid of it. According to Mansoor and Mace there, looks like little by little, they got rid of all the extra, very obvious extra things. Used to know, I'm on this pay-per-view sold X amount, I'm going to get X percentage. Now that percentage would be up to whoever was in head of talent relations or whatever, whether it be a John Laurinaitis, whether it be a Jim Ross, or whoever would decide what that percentage of that pay-per-view, the percentage of all those sort of things. But
your spot on the card, all those
right.
things.
But at least you knew hypothetically that, this thing sold X amount, I'm going to get roughly this percentage or whatever. Then that kind of all got put in the dark, and now it looks like everything's in the dark, and now you have this fucking bucket that you can't possibly. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's funny how I haven't heard anything about that interview whatsoever. Despite following all forms of pro wrestling media, and I did not hear about that. When did this interview come out?
Oh, this was I keep forgetting to bring it up. It was a few weeks ago now. It was a while back. Now the reason I bring it up now, okay, is I wanted to bring it up when we talked about the Backlash pay-per-view, but I'll talk about it now. Here's my theory, Rich. I think that's why we get these 5 and 6 match pay-per-views. I think that's part of the reason why. I think the reason they don't do the old 8 or 9 match pay-per-views, right? And they don't do matches they do very few pre-show matches now as well, is because they want as few people as possible filling that bucket. And what would be the most lucrative shows you can work? Pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. Especially the ones that are in the big stadiums that are drawing all those fans. So they'd rather do a show like Backlash France, right? With the biggest gate they ever did in an arena with 5 matches. So you only have, 12 people filling their bucket. So that's my theory. They didn't say that on the podcast or the YouTube or whatever you want to call it, the video. That's my theory, though. I think that's part of the reason these Levesque pay-per-views with this new company have such limited matches. I don't think they want to pay these fucking people. We know how TKO operates.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
how they operate UFC.
Even if that was a WWE thing before, if they brought that into TKO is not going to say, "Whoa, hold on a minute, you can't do this." They're going to say, "This is genius, great. Let's make it even more obscure and more,
Let's make it even harder for these people to make
yeah,
money.
exactly. TKO is definitely on the side of let's make it harder to pay people and let's pay people less if possible. So good for them.
If it were me in the room, and it never will be, taking a crack at Levesque and they'd never call on me, I would ask about the bucket system. I would have him sit up there at that fucking table and awkwardly explain why they have a bucket system now instead of the old system where you just got paid for your fucking work. And let's face it, I'm not exactly a commie, but I find this preposterous. This is ridiculous. They've gone backwards. It would have made more sense if the bucket system was the old system, and then, all right, we're making more money now. No, soon they're going to roll back the fucking downsides. Would you be surprised?
Oh God, no. I think there was a time pretty recently where UFC's like, and obviously I'm not a UFC expert or whatever, but I want to say Dave Meltzer said that, I don't know if he had that in effect, but like the amount, the revenue that UFC was bringing in compared to like what the fighters were making was like an ungodly low, like a shockingly low number. I forget what it was. You could probably look it up if you're listening to this right now. Like a shockingly low number. And I think he theorized that WWE may have been lower at that point too, in terms of the amount of revenue they were making and the amount of revenue that was being shared and given to the independent contractors in this case. So not surprised. The bucket, that's weird. I kind of thought there was other weird ways to do it. That is the most strange, weird, bucket system.
Rich,
yeah.
I recommend you and everybody listening.
I'm definitely gonna listen to that.
It's because Mason Mansour, the former Mason Mansour, whatever they call themselves now. They're very upfront and honest, and they are not afraid to talk about their experiences or anything like that. So, and they just and Maven couldn't believe what he was hearing. I mean, he was just like in disbelief, stunned disbelief that that's how it works now. And I believe it was Mansour who brought up, he's like, oh yeah. And then they'll just, you'll start to fill the bucket. And then all of a sudden you get yanked off the road until the next pay period. Then they put you back on the road. It's crazy. But anyway, I personally believe after hearing that and understanding how it works, that's why the pay-per-views have so few matches on them. That's my theory. Rotate. Look, the top of the card people, it's always going to work out for them. Okay. Cody Rhodes is going to be on every fucking pay-per-view. Cody Rhodes is going to be on the road. He's going to make his money. But they'll fuck with you if you're Bronson Reed. They'll fuck with you if you're Mason Mansour. They'll fuck with you if you're an undercard wrestler. So dirty business. It was eye-opening for me too. Anyway, we can continue with this fucking card.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that one out. That's I can't imagine Maven's thoughts as he hears that. Nia Jax defeats Lyra Valkyria to become the 2024 Queen of the Ring, and then bends the knee to Paul Levesque, who begrudgingly had to once again be on screen at a WWE event. His biggest fear, public speaking. He had to do it yet again.
It's amazing how they had her bow to him, wasn't it? I mean, it's just
I saw the video of that, and I was like, oof, yeah, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, huh? Okay. It's just, I don't know. Very odd optics there. Very odd. Did not like, but
the match was fine. I mean, look, people are going crazy about Nia Jax. They're calling it her best run and all that. She still stinks.
We're doing the Nia Jax thing. We're really doing that.
We're still doing it. We're still doing it. So I forget who it was. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you credit because I don't know if it was on Twitter or our Discord. Probably our Discord because I spend more time there than Twitter. Someone said it was a great theory that maybe Nia Jax won Queen of the Ring because her gear was already Saudi friendly.
Makes sense. Yeah, her gear usually looks that way. Yeah.
So just fuck it. She's already dressed for the occasion anyway. So we'll just send her out there.
I thought they were going to give the big rub to Lyra Valkyria, but not to be.
I'll tell you what, though, she is getting a big push.
Yeah.
She is getting a big push. So, and this was part of it, getting to the final of this thing. They really like her.
Elsewhere on the show, moving on, 2 more matches here. Gunther defeats Randy Orton to win the men's King of the Ring. Gunther did not bend a knee to Triple H. Am I correct in that?
No, he did not. They
Paul
didn't have
Levesque
Triple H come out for this.
He was like, I can't, guys, not again. I'm not going out. He finally put his foot down and said, I'm not going out on pay-per-view. Come on, guys, this is ridiculous. But no, it's strange how he made the woman, whatever. Anyway, yeah, Gunther, you're King of the Ring.
People are going to get mad at us because I think Nia said she did it as a bit or whatever, but it's still, the optics were really fucked up.
No, I'm sorry. They're doing a show in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize. Fuck you. I'm not apologizing at the optics of a woman in a full bodysuit bending a knee to Paul Levesque as he puts a crown on her in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for one of their blood money sports watching shows. I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to apologize.
She's the queen now. Shouldn't he be bowing to her?
Right.
She's the fucking queen now.
But he's the King of Kings. We talked about this.
Yes.
He's the King of Kings.
So I don't know if you can hear that, but like my dog woke up and can you hear that or no? Is that
I can't
distracting?
Hear. No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Because she's bumping into the walls with her halo and just
all good.
Okay. So it's only distracting me. Okay,
it's just you as you're trying to get your intense Gunther Randy Orton takes out. Yeah.
So this match was fascinating because what it showed me was Randy Orton is going to have his match no matter who the fuck he's in there with. And that's really not much of a surprise.
So this was decidedly a Randy Orton match, not decidedly a
Gunther
my God.
Match. This match was so dry. I mean, it wasn't bad. Okay. Because both guys know how to work and they know what they're doing in there. But Randy had Gunther do a Randy Orton match. Randy Orton had no interest in doing a Gunther match. And this was the typical, methodical, slow Randy Orton style of match where he's selling a body part, and, the idea is, can he overcome this injured body part against this monster roadblock of Gunther? I think he may have taken 1 or 2 chops the entire match. So, they had a conversation. He's like, listen, brother, I don't do those chops. We're not doing that. Because he maybe took 1 or 2 chops the entire match.
Gunther, I've seen your matches, man. And let me tell you, I've heard those chops. Just so you know, I don't take chops like that, Gunther.
Listen, tonight you're going to work the knee. You're working the knee tonight. Right. You're not working the chest.
He always used to do the Gunther, I've watched your matches before. The Randy Orton promo style. He'd always say,
yeah.
John Cena, I've heard too long all about. That's it. I just imagine that's what he's doing backstage. Yeah.
And that's what they did. They had a Randy Orton match, and it was just aggressively fine. You're waiting for it to hit a next gear, but it never hits that next gear.
And then people tell us it's a fantastic match, and Randy Orton knows how to work better than anybody knows how to work, and all this other stuff.
I haven't seen a lot of people say that this was a fantastic match. I've seen a few people, because I'll tell you, like, honestly, there's a certain segment of fan that I think probably really appreciated this match and thought it was great because Orton's selling of the body part was fantastic. And the problem was, there's more than one element that makes up a great match. Okay. If you can have a wild spectacle, flashy, high spot style of match, and it could be a great visual to watch, but the match can leave you a little lacking.
Sure. If
there's just no attempts to sell, no story being told, but it can still be a quote unquote good match. The opposite can be true too, where you can have great work and great selling of a limb and great storytelling and great psychology, but a match that has all of those can still be dull. You know what I mean? It can still not be super compelling. And I don't think that this was a super compelling match. I think that as I said, it never hit another gear. So what you had was 2 good workers doing good work, but it had, I'm sure it was over like 20 minutes and it was just very dry. It was a very dry match. It was, what critics of Randy Orton always say about Randy Orton's matches.
Right.
Like,
the same match he's had for 20 years. Yeah. Same match he's ever.
Yeah. And it's just not very, you're right. And then occasionally Orton will have a really good night with the right person, and and he has a great match, but it's just so few and far between that he does that. It's very often this where it just never hits that next, because and we talked about it many times. He knows one way. He learned one way. He knows one way. He works one way. And that's just heavy, heavy, heavy on story, even if that story bores you to death. And unfortunately, there's more to pro wrestling than just telling a logical story from bell to bell. You also, the best pro wrestling matches are where you tell a good story bell to bell, but it's also exciting and compelling and done in a way that you've never seen before. You add wrinkles, and there was nothing here other than Orton selling this limb. And then, the finish was fucking preposterous. Like, not only did he not work Gunther's match, not only did he not take any chops, he didn't take any of Gunther's signature shit. Gunther then wins on like a crucifix style pinning combination, right? Where Randy Orton's shoulder is clearly up. Like his shoulder wasn't pinned to the mat. And I don't think it was like something, and now I guess we know it, the follow-up. I don't think that was intentional, meaning it was intentional and an intentional part of the story. In other words, moving forward, it's not going to be, they didn't do it on purpose to where they want Randy Orton to be able to say, oh, well, the referee missed my shoulder.
On Raw, Randy Orton didn't come out and say, as you can see, my shoulder was up, so you don't have the claim to the King of the Ring or whatever. No, they're not doing that.
No, I think that Randy Orton just sandbagged them. Randy Orton just didn't want to get pinned clean by Gunther. So he made sure his shoulder was up. On top of everything else, on top of having this boring-ass match, this competent yet boring match, I would go 3 stars on it if you're looking for like a star rating. It was good, but it was kind of dull and dry. And then he screws the guy in the end and makes sure that he's not even pinned and that his shoulder is up and that they have to show all these creative angles to avoid showing his shoulder up. So, man, this was a Randy Orton political special is what this match was. He probably was annoyed he had to lose to this guy and put him over and get him ready for Cody, right? And figured, you know what? Fuck it. I'm slowing this match to a crawl and I'm fucking this guy on the finish. And that's what he did. So, without question, the least interesting match that Gunther has had in months.
Another main event. Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. I am kind of upset. I do want to watch this match. I try to always make sure that I watch Logan Paul matches, especially Cody matches as well. I'll probably watch this one sometime in the next few days. But what did you think of Cody? Don't.
No. You don't
really?
Watch this.
Really? Okay. Do tell.
Now listen, I like Logan Paul. Everyone has heard us rave about Logan Paul. I think if he was full-time, he'd be one of the best in the business. Or the potential to be one of the best in the business. I like Cody. I like Cody's WWE work even more than you do, I think. This just didn't work. This was an overbooked mess. Again, way too heavy on story. The idea was Logan Paul was coming into this and promising not to use the brass knucks, and that was the story coming into the match. And then on the final Raw before the match, that the referee patted down Logan Paul and found brass knucks in his pants or whatever, and so everyone knew eventually the brass knucks were going to come into play in the match, because the heel was promising not to use them. And then, the whole match was just way too overbooked and gimmick heavy, and it really dragged the match down. It was disappointing from that standpoint. It's, I think that you really could have told the same story you wanted to tell, where Logan Paul is this disingenuous douchebag who's going to do whatever it takes to win, with one big spot in the match, as opposed to having it be a running through line through the entire match.
Okay.
Right? Just, you see what I'm saying? Just go out there and wrestle. And then when things are looking bad for Logan Paul, he gets desperate and resorts to the shenanigans.
But he was a desperate chicken shit the entire time?
The entire time.
Okay.
And also, during this match, it was obvious that they were having chemistry issues early on. I feel like they overcame them. And you get that sometimes with Cody. Right? Because I know Cody was a high school wrestler and a pretty good one. And I don't want to say that he's not a good athlete, but a lot of times Cody doesn't look like the best athlete in the ring. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
He kind of looks, he doesn't exactly look like Will Ospreay out there, is my point. And when he's in there with the wrong guy, sometimes they just
It looks clunky. He's prone to clunky matches. He's prone to clunky matches for sure.
Absolutely. And this was clunky at the start. I do think eventually they overcame it, but I did think the match was just an overbooked mess. And it's, I can tell you right now that I know your tastes. Don't waste your time. You're not
interesting. Okay.
You're not going to like it. It's not like a bad match. Okay. But in the pantheon of Logan Paul matches, it's bottom end.
Okay, yeah, that's probably not worth it then. Yeah, that's interesting because I'm usually very high on him. Obviously, people that listen to this show know how high we are on Logan Paul. So yeah, the fact that we have a match here that just didn't, against Cody, I would assume that with their eyes closed, they could have a pretty solid, in a pay-per-view main event, 24 minutes would have a solid as hell match. But yeah, pretty interested to see or hear that maybe not my. So yeah, that's fine. I'll just skip it then. It's more than enough wrestling for me to watch. I think I'll be okay if I don't carve out 25 minutes of my life for Cody and Logan.
So the show overall, I mean, it was a 5-match show. Typical Levesque pay-per-view where you hope you get 1 or 2 great matches. I don't think that we ended up with a great match here. I thought that we ended up with 3 okay matches. Maybe 4. I don't know. I didn't think much of Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, to be honest. But one of those 3 matches had the silly 1980s finish with, where we're just waiting for the turn. And I thought Orton just dragged Gunther down to his level. And the main event to me was a match I was really looking forward to with 2 guys I like watching, and ultimately was overbooked and disappointing. So the show itself, I can't recommend. I don't, if there's a listener that depends on our reviews on what to watch, what I would say is if you don't typically make WWE pay-per-views a must watch for yourself, that you can absolutely skip this one. There's nothing to see here.
All right, so let's move on to another news story here from WWE, and then we'll move on to the world of Japanese wrestling here in a moment. It's a little AEW too, but in the world of WWE, one more thing here. On this week's episode of NXT, NXT General Manager Ava, no longer Reign, just Ava, introduced Roxanne Perez's NXT Women's Championship challenger for the upcoming NXT Battleground show, and it was TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace. Now, Grace obviously appeared in WWE as part of the Women's Royal Rumble earlier this year, but now this is a pretty big spot being in a Battleground show, being the, going at Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's title. So, it's an interesting note here with Jordynne Grace. Obviously the current TNA Knockouts champion going to NXT facing Roxanne Perez at NXT Battleground. And I guess I ask you, Joe, is this the start of, in your mind, a larger TNA WWE relationship, a one-off like that Mickie James Royal Rumble appearance? What do you think? What do you make of Jordynne Grace showing up on NXT and a potential relationship between TNA and WWE?
Okay, so number one, someone in the chat is saying they did do a video about Orton's shoulder being up, and it looks like they might be building that to a rematch.
Okay.
So I missed that. I didn't see that. Number two, as far as the TNA WWE thing, I am going to go deal with the dog, who is very anxious right now.
Yeah,
and
no
I
problem.
think everybody went to bed, and the situation going on with the dog. So let me...
If you could hear it a little bit that last time too, so take care of her, get her all settled.
Give your thoughts first, and I'm going to try to see if I get her to settle down.
Absolutely, no problem. So while Joe's doing that, I will take you through this. So here's what I think about the Jordynne Grace thing. Jordynne Grace appearing on NXT, going to Battleground, facing Roxanne Perez. It's cool. It's got a lot of people, talking about a larger, relationship between TNA and WWE. And this is, they've done little bits and pieces here and there. Obviously, we talked about the Mickie James thing a couple of years ago. Joe and I both thought at the time that was simply that they wanted to have Mickie James. They didn't realize that she was in, Impact at the time, and probably made a deal where, hey, just announce that she's on Impact, or, mention that she's the Impact knockout. Because I think Mickie James was the champion at the time too. So just, hey, make a note that she's the Impact champion or whatever when she comes up for your Royal Rumble, and that'll be good, well and good. And that's what they did. Mickie James came out. They said, it's, Impact Wrestling World, Women's World Champion, Mickie James, and talked about Impact a little bit. And then she was in the Royal Rumble for a couple minutes, and then she was out, and then that was the end of the relationship. While people were deciding that, oh my God, it's going to be Moose versus Roman Reigns, and here's these things. And it was essentially just a quick little one-off. Now they've done a little bit of stuff here and there. AJ Styles appearing on the 20th anniversary show and doing, little stuff like that. And then obviously you have Jordynne Grace appearing at the Royal Rumble this year. Now, this was, I think, the first one where, okay, now there's maybe a little bit more smoke to this fire, because unlike the Mickie James thing where it was clear they just wanted like a nostalgia thing and, oh crap, here we got Mickie James. Jordynne Grace is inactive, actively in the company, a big deal in the company. And they brought her into the Royal Rumble, and she was treated like a big deal. She was not in there for 2 minutes. She was in there for a very long time. She was a star. She had big-time spots. She had big-time spot with Jade. She had a big-time spot with a bunch of people. So that led me to believe, okay, there might be a little something more to this. And now this we have here with Jordynne Grace on NXT television having a match with Roxanne Perez at their upcoming pay-per-view, Battleground. Now, here's kind of where I'm at. Before people start going nuts with, oh my God, here we go, here's this, and this guy's going to go here, and maybe this guy's going to appear on this show, and that guy's going to appear on this show, and this person's going to be on this show. Maybe don't get too, excited about that just yet. I think what's happening here is two things. WWE is obviously interested in Jordynne Grace. It's very clear. They booked her for the Royal Rumble and booked her strong. They're booking her for this NXT Battleground thing, and she's going to, face off with Roxanne Perez, the champion. They obviously see something in Grace. They're interested in Grace. They can't sign Grace right now. She's with TNA still. They might not fully understand the dynamic. It might be simply a thing where let's kick the tires on Jordynne Grace, have her come in for this big show, see how things go. We saw her at the Royal Rumble, everything went well. Let's put her here on this NXT Battleground show, see how she does, see how, she interacts with everybody, and then we'll know, okay, when her contract is due and when we have the chance, she's worth whatever amount of money, which I'm sure she's going to ask for a decent amount of money, as she should, given that she's one of the top women's stars in the world right now. So let's get our hooks in her now. And let's promote her. Let's get her introduced to everybody. Let's talk her up. Let's get her a big spot. Let's do all these sort of things. So if and when, her contract's due, we have our clause in her, and maybe she's more apt to sign with us. That's what I think is happening here with Jordynne Grace. And that's why I think so much of this is revolved around Jordynne Grace. And so much, saw her with the Rumble, and you saw her, and now she's going to do this Battleground thing, and she was on NXT television. They obviously want her. They just want to kick the tires. Is she worth the money? She's had, some attitude problems in the past that feel like they're in the past. And maybe they want to just make sure that stuff's all well and good, and we're, we'll move on in the future. And then, when its contract's up, then they can sign her. I think that's what's going on here. I also think that, and we've talked about it too with Paul Levesque, that a lot of what Paul Levesque wants to, the perception that he wants to have is that WWE will work with other people. That WWE is not isolationist like they were under Vince McMahon. That we will work with Japanese promotions, that we will work with Mexican promotions, that we will work with independent promotions, that we will work with, our competitors in the marketplace like a TNA. I think you want that perception to be out there that you will work with these other people, because it makes it easier when you do want to, do things like they're, kicking the tires on doing something in Japan and doing the Mexico thing. Like we saw that Paul Levesque playbook when he was in NXT. With the indies, with the Burt Rest scene, with the European wrestling scene. We saw that those relationships, again, they always end up benefiting Paul Levesque and WWE, but in the interim, you want to give the perception that, we're a partner in this business. There's also, I guess I'll add a third little caveat to this too. There is also, an antitrust lawsuit that recently got settled from TKO. And I think there's at least some smoke to that fire that WWE, it behooves WWE to prove to the outside world that there's not a monopoly and that they're not, working on destroying all their competition. That no. We work with our competition. No, it's not a destroyer competition. We regularly work with our competition. Look, we just did this relationship with TNA. We just did this thing in Japan. We just did this. We just did that. I think it behooves them to kind of give that public face as well. So yeah, maybe it's a 3-part thing. Antitrust, keep anybody off that scent. 2, to Paul Levesque trying to prove to the world that he's open for business. And again, if you're joking, if you think, you're kidding yourself, I guess I should say, if you think that's going to benefit anybody but Paul Levesque and WWE, but they want to prove, they want to show the world that they're open for business because they want those relationships. Those relationships are fruitful to them because they can acquire talent, whatever it may be from those other people. So yeah, it obviously behooves them then again to also act like they're in good relationships with other companies across the world and get into relationships with companies across the world. And then last but not least, they like Jordynne Grace and they want to sign Jordynne Grace. So let's get our claws in her now and gas her up for lack of a better term. And then when, her contract's due, we'll have her ready to go and she'll know that this is the home for her. And we've already pushed her and we, our fans already know her and stuff. And she's not going to want to go to AEW. She's going to want to go with us to WWE. people have also said doing this now also maybe deflates the Forbidden Door thing, because we just started the Forbidden Door build as well for New Japan and AEW. So it's possible that they're trying to say, hey, whoa, we have our, whatever it was, the prohibited portal or something, I think is what Jordynne Grace tweeted out or whatever. Maybe they want to make, kind of take some of the steam off the Forbidden Door by saying, hey, whoa, hold on, we got a relationship with TNA. Look at what we're doing. So I think it's a lot of stuff. But I will say, I don't think that anybody should get out over their skis and think that any top stars are going to be appearing on any other shows. I really don't think you're going to see many TNA main roster people in WWE, and I don't think you're going to see any WWE main roster people in TNA. I think you might see some NXT people in TNA, maybe. I think you've obviously already seen some TNA people in NXT in the form of Jordynne Grace, but I would be stunned if you have any main roster WWE people appearing on TNA. I just don't think that they think that TNA is of that level, and I think you're probably just going to get NXT people. And their idea is that TNA is kind of on the level of an NXT, so it's makes more sense to have a relationship that way between NXT and TNA. So that's my thought on this. We'll see. Obviously, it's still a work in progress here, but that's my thoughts. Joe, are you back?
Yeah. I've been listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So the dog. Everyone knows my dog's had the bad eyes, and she had to buy a nucleation, what they call it. She had both of her eyeballs removed last week. And she's been home about a week, but she's adjusting to no longer having eyeballs. And she's wearing this cone so she doesn't obviously injure herself and rip out the stitches that are keeping her eyes closed right now. And she's very anxious. Everybody went to bed. So because she's obviously blind and deaf, she gets very anxious if she doesn't sense that people are around. She likes human contact, and she likes having people around because she doesn't understand why she doesn't have eyeballs anymore. She doesn't understand why she's wearing this cone. She doesn't understand what's happening with her right now. And everybody went to bed, and she's just marching around the house, bumping into the fucking walls, and I couldn't take it anymore. It was breaking my heart. So I took a quick break to try to get her settled in a place where she likes to lay and sleep. And, I think I got her to fall asleep. So the dog is handled and taken care of. She's just a lot of work right now because of, the surgery that she just went through, and it's a big change for her. And, so I think that situation's all settled for now. As far as everything you just said with the NXT. Now, I had someone who is, I don't know if they want to be, I'm not going to say who it was, even though I think they probably wouldn't mind, but someone had a theory on this that maybe WWE is trying to take a little bit of the shine and edge off of the Forbidden Door.
Yeah, I mentioned that towards the end. I think that's, to me, that was one that I didn't mention in my top 3 points, but is one that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so, that could be part of it. And it's also, I think I caught some of what you said too. I think they just really like Jordynne Grace, or they're going to make a play for her when they can. So the fact that they're paying her 6 figures for like 3 appearances, good for her, but what a fucking waste of money. I mean, that's great that she can get that, but the like, you're not going to get a return on that investment. I mean, it's, and she's a talented wrestler and everything, but I mean, geez, when I read that, and I assume that's true because it came from Fightful, and it's very obvious that Shomro Sapp has a very good relationship with Jordynne Grace. So, that is, my God. I mean, that, if they're throwing around that kind of money, I could see why people like Chris Bay are angling to get in on it. Because you see Chris Bay putting out tweets and everything. And
hell yeah, 6 figures. So, hold on a minute. Hold on a fucking minute. Open that prohibited portal for me too. I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's I think she has wrestled Roxanne Perez before, hasn't she? Didn't they wrestle in Impact?
Let me see if there was a Roxy Grace match. It sounds right. You're saying an Impact, you think?
I think they had a match in Impact.
I don't remember much of Roxy's Impact run. As far as I can tell, no. They have never faced each other.
Okay. So I must have.
They were in the Royal Rumble together, obviously, but we don't count that.
Yeah. Who'd Roxy wrestle in Impact?
I don't remember her having an Impact run. Let me see if she ever was. I trust you.
Who am I thinking of then?
No, she was never an Impact as far as I can tell. Oh, no. Sorry. Here she was. Yeah, let's see. One time. Well, okay. Deonna Purrazzo. She faced Deonna Purrazzo in a Reina de Reinas ROH Women's World Title. I do not remember this at all. Deonna Purrazzo representing AAA versus Roxy representing ROH on Impact.
In Impact.
Yeah. I don't remember that at all. Interesting.
So it's Deonna, not Jordynne Grace.
Yes, yeah, it's Deonna.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then Ethan Page shows up, and let me just say this. I genuinely mean this. I genuinely, honestly wish I wasn't as cynical and grumpy as I am about pro wrestling, to where I can be excited about Ethan Page showing up to NXT the way some of these people were excited about this. I don't get it. I mean, he is the jaggiest jag who ever jagged. I mean, and these people act like fucking Nature Boy Buddy Rogers showed up in NXT when fucking Ethan Page shows up. It's Ethan Page. Are they familiar with this man's work? I mean, don't disrespect.
The answer is no. The answer is no.
I mean, is there? I mean, I just it's crazy. But see, here's the thing. I should say that it surprises me that people were excited that Ethan Page, of all people, showed up in NXT.
So they were excited for Brian Pillman Jr.
Exactly. That's the point I made on Flagship Plus. These are the same people who were excited about Brian Pillman Jr. and swore that Lexis King was going to be the next big thing. These are people who were excited about Tangaloa. These are people that were excited. Never mind, like Tama Tonga and Ethan Page, who are worlds better than Brian Pillman Jr. and Tangaloa. But even they're like bang average wrestlers that no one who is familiar with their work would ever like be excited about, right? Could you imagine your promotion of choice, a promotion you enjoy watching? They go out on the free agent market and they acquire Brian Pillman Jr., Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Ethan Page. And you're genuinely excited about that. Like, I wish I was not as cynical as I am and could be excited about those four names the way that these people are excited about those guys.
Or that we watch too much wrestling and we've seen them wrestle for the last decade and are not very excited about any of them too. I think that's it.
How could you be excited about any of these people?
I think, to be fair to people, I think it's just jumps are exciting. People leaving one company and going to another company is exciting. And I agree, it is. It's Ethan Page, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Brian Pillman Jr. You know what I mean? Like there's levels to this, but I get it. And this is why I say that I love movement in wrestling. And that's why I want more people to leave and more people to go other places. I want a bunch of people to leave AEW. I want a bunch of people to leave WWE. I want people to jump. I want people to go to Impact. I love that stuff because there's always that little bit of and you never know. Now, I think I'm pretty sure with Ethan Page, I've seen enough of Ethan Page that it's not going to click and he's not going to be, show something that he's never shown before because I've had a decade of being able to watch him. Now, I think good promo, good look, good, but then the bell rings and a lot of times it's just not that much there. But I get why there's the general excitement because people jumping and debuting is exciting. The problem is eventually something has to happen after that. And that's where kind of the rubber meets the road and a lot of the mask comes off with a lot of stuff. Like the Brian Pillman thing, the Lexis King. He was cooking. And oh my God, how did, AEW bungle this? Like, oh my God, look how he's got all this charisma and he's coming out of a big chair. Remember he had a big chair for a while and it was like, oh my God, he's just a star. He has all the star presence or whatever. And then the bell rang and then it was like, oh yeah, he's just Brian Pillman Jr. still. And all these, months later, you can't find the guy with a search party. He's just a completely irrelevant part of the show. And Jade is a similar way too. It was like, oh my God, Jade's this. And little by little, a lot of that is kind of getting lost. And now Jade feels less special than she did. So, but there's excitement when people jump and there's excitement when people leave and there's excitement when things like that happen. So I get it. And I understand that. And that's why movement is good in wrestling because it can make people that aren't that big of a deal. Connor Murphy brings up a good point. That was the next guy I was going to bring up. Shawn Spears. Remember when Shawn Spears debuted in NXT, re-debuted in NXT, and people went nuts for like a week, and then it just was nothing? That stuff's fun, but again, a lot of these people, once that rubber meets the road, and once that bell rings, it's like, oh, a lot of these people are just not very good, and they are what they are. And it doesn't matter. They jumped, and there's a little bit of an excitement about that, but we all know what they're going to be when the match actually happened, and we've seen these guys for decades, and we know that they're not, they can't hang.
good for Ethan Page landing on his feet and everything, but I cannot imagine being like genuinely excited to watch that guy wrestle. I mean, we've seen it. He is what he is. He's a mid-card wrestler. I don't know. He's okay. I don't want to make this show an Ethan Page breakdown, but again, it's not surprising because, again, if you could be excited about Brian Pillman Jr., then you could literally be excited about anybody. Tangaloa. I mean, these are the kinds of wrestlers where the fans of the promotions that they came from couldn't wait for these people to leave. You know what I mean? Like, New Japan fans were relieved when Tangaloa showed up on that, whatever show it was that he showed up on. It was like, oh, wow, great. Okay. Now we know for sure he won't be eating up a G1 spot. You know what I mean? It's like, thank God he's gone. We're like counting down the clock for Hikuleo to join them, and it's like, Brian Pillman Jr. Does any AEW fan miss Brian Pillman Jr.? The answer obviously is no.
It should be no.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And, he's doing nothing in NXT. He came in with all that fanfare and immediately NXT saw what they had, which was a guy who just isn't very good and doesn't have much charisma and who you really can't ever push. So now I think Ethan Page is better than those guys. And Ethan Page can promo and he looks great on TV. He's telegenic and all those things. He's just a guy who has never, ever, ever put it all together. Not one time, nowhere that he's been, has he ever put it all together. And we've had that conversation a million times. And I don't see, but it's just crazy. It's just, I think you're right. I think wrestling went so long with one promotion and this concept of jumps is new to people. And I do think some of it is that they find it exciting. And it's also the tribalism too, in that anything is chalked up as a win. Any move is chalked up as a win, so even if it's just someone like Ethan Page, who's just a guy, right? It's like, oh, well, we got one over on them. We got one of their guys, so there's that element of it too. But anyway. Are you hyped up about Ethan Page versus Trick Williams?
Not really that hyped about Ethan Page and Trick Williams. A little more hyped up for Roxanne versus Jordynne. I think that'll be pretty solid, but not as much for Ethan and Trick there. But we'll see. I tend to think that with a lot of these relationships that people get, really, really excited about, they tend to not really, be much anything at all. So we'll see if this one is more than that or just a one-off thing. Anything on AEW before we get into the world of Japanese wrestling? Plenty to get into. So obviously, like I mentioned, Double or Nothing 2024, we did an instant reaction live on the $10 tier over at flagshippatreon.com. So if you want to listen to that 2 hours plus, reviewing and recapping that show, that is available for you right now. Over there at flagshippatreon.com. But anything else on the fallout or I guess the big news story coming out of it that we did not have at the time is that Adam Copeland broke his leg in the Malachi Black match. Now, I know that there's some debate as to what and when the broken leg happened. Like, I would assume, and I kind of at night of assumed, that when he landed on his feet from the top of the cage doing whatever that elbow drop thing that he was doing was, I would assume he broke everything in his leg, broke his heel, ruptured his ankle, ruptured his Achilles, broke his leg. Something had to happen in those. But apparently people are also saying that when he did the spear through the cage to the outside, that's when it happened. So I don't know. Regardless, he left the match with a broken leg and now had to vacate the TNT title. So I guess that's the big news from
it is big news. And apparently there were big plans for him moving forward. Beyond just the fact that he's one of their most pushed guys and a legit upper mid-carder and all those things, that there were some big storyline things coming up. And obviously he's not going to be able to make Forbidden Door. He's not going to be able to make All In. He's probably not going to be able to make All Out. He's probably up in the air for Arthur Ashe. So there's a bunch of big shows that he was going to be a major part of. And, that's all out the window. So that's wrestling. It's AEW has had periods in their history where they've dealt with massive injury issues. And right now, you've got Kenny Omega on the shelf with his diverticulitis, however you pronounce that.
Diverticulitis.
Diverticulitis. Someone was going to correct me. At least it was you this time. Now Copeland with the broken leg, and, so they certainly have their share of guys. Hangman Page, whatever happened there, who knows when he'll be back with his personal issue. So, but they've had periods where they've, they were a couple years ago, or was it last year's? Was it last year's Forbidden Door where there's just everybody was fucking
2
injured?
years.
It may have been
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, that Forbidden Door was the one that got ripped up like 12 times because everybody just kept getting hurt constantly.
Yeah. So, but that's pro wrestling business. I think I think Copeland got a little gun shy, doing that dive off the cage and decided he was going to try to just land on his feet as opposed to going through the table, which was the worst decision he could have made. I mean, it was just, you're begging to. We see people blow out their knees just coming from the top rope sometimes and landing on their feet, and coming from that height when you're 50, 51 years old, it's I'm not saying the guy's on death's door. He's obviously, for a 50-year-old man, I mean, he's in phenomenal shape for a 30-year-old man, but age is age and bones are bones.
Yeah. Your leg bone is not meant to sustain a 25-foot drop where you land flat on
20 years old.
Yeah. At any age, your leg is not designed to do that. And you're lucky if you don't leave with a significant injury after that. So when he got up, because initially he didn't grimace or because I thought he was going to grab his leg. I thought we were going to get like a Sid situation where everything was just going to break immediately and he was going to go grab at his leg or whatever. And the match was going to basically be over. But the fact that he kept working after that, I was like, oh, I guess it's fine. And then he did the spear through the cage, and that's when I started to notice him limping. It may have been a situation where he was just on pure adrenaline and thinking, man, all right, I'm just kind of a little sore, whatever, and then had a moment to kind of rest and then realized, oh, fuck, my leg is absolutely screwed, because I was kind of surprised that he wasn't limping immediately. But I did know in that little in that video that he did on Twitter, he talked about the injury being from the top of the cage. So, which makes all the sense in the world that's where you would break your leg, is doing that. So yeah, I don't know what that was, but I was stunned that he came out alive and didn't have any significant injuries. And then when the news came out, it was like, oh yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. That was the problem. And I guess Darby's mostly fine. He's fine for Darby. You know what I mean? His nose is all busted up and he's got bruises everywhere, but that's Darby Allin. I mean, this guy got hit by a bus like a month ago and he's wrestling again. So that's Darby. But I think everybody else came out mostly okay.
Yeah. Now, we know that Jake Hagar's contract came up. We know that Arn Anderson's contract, I think, ended today. There are a lot more contracts coming due that aren't going to be extended or re-signed. I know that. I am privy to a couple of names, but I'm not at liberty to say who they are because there's always the chance that Tony Khan works a lot of team options into his contracts, sports style. Okay. I think a lot of people are aware of that. Maybe they're not. So there's a lot of AEW contracts that are structured where it might be like, okay, it's a 2-year deal. And the third year is a team option, meaning it's Tony Khan's option whether he will extend you for the third year or not. What'll often happen is maybe that wrestler raises their stock during the initial 2-year period, and they'll want to maybe negotiate something more money in exchange for more years. Tony Khan very much operates like a sports team, and that's very often how sports contracts work. There are a lot of contracts coming up, and I know a few of them have the quote unquote team option on them for another year that I do not think AEW is going to extend in this case. So that's why you're seeing a lot of news of a lot of deals coming up, because we're coming up at the end of a month, first of all, and a lot of these contracts run, through the end of certain months. And, so we've seen with Hagar and Arn Anderson, these are people that AEW just isn't interested in keeping around anymore. And there's going to be more. So, it's just, it's the company is 5 years old, and they really are. When you look at the roster, especially the roster it's on TV, and we've talked about this before, it does feel like a different era now. And a lot of the acts of the first 5 years feel like they're from another era. They really do. So, I just think it's a matter of healthy roster turnover that's happening there right now in terms of some of these contracts that are coming up. We saw a few months ago, Tony flat out made cuts, something he said he was never going to do. And he went back on that and cut a bunch of people. Now, a lot of those contracts were per appearance deals, your Slim J's and whatnot. So it's essentially being told, hey, look, we're just not going to use you anymore. And we're going to release you from this contract. And we're not going to override any other bookings you take. So that's a little different. But there are more deals coming due. So I would keep your eyes on the news. You're going to see some other names, come out that where their deals are expiring and they're not going to be renewed, or they're not going to sign new deals. They're not going to, extensions are not going to be exercised. So, depending on whichever circumstance it is.
All right, let's get to the world of Japan. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with Japan. We'll do New Japan at the end because I know you have not caught up as much on Best of the Super Juniors. I'm sort of caught up, so I can touch on New Japan here in a bit. Let's talk about All Japan and Noah, though, because we are fully caught up on both of those. So we'll start with All Japan Pro Wrestling. They had yesterday at Korakuen Hall 1,355 people for Super Power Series 2024 Night 1, and the main event was a Triple Crown title match, Yuma Anzai versus Kento Miyahara. We talked about this match a couple weeks ago, kind of previewed it, thought of what would happen, what could possibly happen. I think you and I both agreed that it was probably going to be Kento getting the win and winning the title back or whatever. That was not the case. Yuma Anzai defeats Kento Miyahara, hits him with the straight jacket German, hits him with the flying knee, and then hits him with his move and pins him in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3, definitive win for Yuma Anzai. And then he makes a whole fucking unit afterwards. What a star-making performance this was for Yuma Anzai. Not that he needed a quote-unquote star-making performance, but this was the stamp of approval. This is our guy. This guy, I mean, Kento gave this guy everything. And like I said, ate a straight jacket German, ate his own move, ate his own knee, and ate Yuma Anzai's move to lose in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. And then Yuma Anzai, like I said, creates his own unit after the match as well. What a performance this was. What a significant performance I think this was for All Japan Pro Wrestling, with this full-on stamp of approval that Yuma Anzai is their guy. Joe, what'd you think of Yuma Anzai's win? And then we'll talk about the match and a little bit more breakdown here. But were you kind of surprised at how definitive it was for Yuma Anzai?
Yeah, it was an interesting match because I didn't know what way they were going to go. I thought maybe Kento would beat him, and then they'd have, Yuma established as a top guy and a Triple Crown level wrestler in the company, and then have him chase Kento Miyahara. They didn't decide to do that. They did exactly what you said. This was a statement title defense, Korakuen Hall, in front of 1,400 people, the Carnival winner, who everyone generally considers to be the ace of the company, although it's very obvious that the promotion now wants to move on and get Yuma Anzai over as the ace. I mean, that's what's happening here. We're seeing the transition from Kento Miyahara to Yuma Anzai as the ace. And Miyahara's in his mid-30s now, or however old he is. I think he's about 35 years old. And he had a promotion-saving run on top of this company. Did he do... And it's almost like we're doing his eulogy. Obviously, he's still in the prime of his career, and he's going to be a major player here. It's not like the guy's leaving or headed to the prelims. But, they really elevated that guy at a time when the company was on death's door multiple times. And, while he never got All Japan to the level where, they were doing monster business or anything like that, he got them to a level where they were able to tread water and much in doubt whether they would survive. And, now you have Yuma Anzai, who was handpicked. They knew from the start. I mean, Yuji Nagata has been tried to pluck this guy and steal him for New Japan very early on.
Yes, he did.
Because, he knew that this guy had the potential to be a big time star, and he's All Japan's guy moving forward. And that's what this win represented. And, like you said, he beat him clean as a sheet in the middle. And now he's got Rena Yabe and Rising Hayato, and he's got his own little stable, right? And Rena Yabe is another guy to keep an eye on. I mean, the guy's like 6'6", and his body still needs to fill out, and he needs to form some aggression. And he's not nearly a finished product, and he's not nearly as well-rounded as Yuma Anzai is right now. Yuma Anzai is essentially a prodigy. But Rena Yabe is another guy with massive upside. And Rising Hayato is a guy that we've talked about, who has gone from someone who had go-away heat with me to someone who's a genuinely interesting performer as a junior. And, so yeah, this is that you summed it up. I mean, this is the guy now, and this is going to be the guy moving forward. And, I'm sure he's going to lose this title. And, we're long past the era where somebody's going to hold it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. He'll probably lose it at some point this year. I wouldn't be surprised. But, beating Kento Miyahara and beating him the way that he did as definitively as he did and sending him packing, really was a statement. So we are seeing the start of what's probably going to be a 20-year career of a legitimate star in Japan.
He's 25 years old. He's 25.
Yeah, I mean, this is the beginnings of it, and it's and we'll see. All Japan has had nice incremental growth, and during a time where everybody else is struggling and going backwards in Japan, they've had growth, small growth, but the level of star he can become will be determined by how much All Japan can grow. Very similar to when Kento Miyahara was anointed the ace 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was now. Same situation. Kento gave them stability. Kento ensured that they would survive. And now they're going to hand the ball off to this kid and hope that he could take them to the next level. And we just get to sit here and watch it play out. And they've got Ren Yabe, they've got the Saito brothers, and all these guys that we've been talking about, this nice young core. And, All Japan is a fun promotion to follow right now because they made all the right moves last year, and that has continued on this year. So, excellent match, and a very interesting. I didn't think there was a wrong finish here. A very interesting finish, and we see how much Anzai can grow and how much he can grow the company for the rest of 2024.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been like I fully prepared that we were going to come on the show and defend either result because I don't think there was a wrong result. If you have Kento Miyahara beat Yuma Anzai, then you have a great story. Yuma, he had his little run with the title, and that's something that's a building block. You can come back in a year's time, in 6 months' time, or whatever. He can work his way back up, and he can get But you tell the story that all right, look, you won the title, you were a big deal, but you're not quite there yet. Kento, it's still Kento's company, and the crowd kind of thought that was going to happen a lot. There was many times, and Kento did a great job of building it up too. In the final few moments of that match, he would get Anzai up a little bit for that straitjacket German, and the crowd was already like resigned to the fate. Oh, he's gonna do it. And then Anzai kicked out, and then it was, or he didn't kick out. He like kicked out of the move, I should say. He didn't actually hit the straitjacket German. He would kind of wiggle his way out of it. And then there was this moment, like a couple minutes later, after the first time when Anzai wiggled out of the straitjacket German. Kento got it on him again, and this time the crowd was like, okay, he wiggled out of it one time. You can't wiggle out of it twice. There's no way. Kento's going to win. He's still the ace. He's still the man. Anzai, you've been great, but it's not yours. And he wiggled out of that one too. And that's when the crowd really was like, holy shit. Okay. Now this kid might do it. And then when he hit the straitjacket German and then he hit the knee, then it was like, holy fuck. Like this guy, and you could tell the crowd, the noise from the crowd was a little bit of like, we just saw something here. We saw a guy anointed as the new ace, the new man, the new guy in this company. And that it's significant. We saw, if you watch this match, you see a significant thing. You saw a very significant thing happen here. Yuma Anzai putting his stamp on this era and putting his stamp on the ace now, And like you said, he's not going to hold the title for, he's not going to hold it for 4 years or something like that. I mean, Kento Miyahara might win the title again, but this to me was a huge, huge changing of the guard moment where it was like, okay, this is the torch being passed. This definitive a win, this obvious of a win, then bookended by the new unit and this guy having his own unit. That was the stamp of approval that okay, you're our guy, you're our ace now. This is your company now, and that I'm glad we saw it. And you know what? He deserves it. And you know what? I think he's going to do fine in that role. Crowd is taken to him. He's got the utmost confidence. I think it's going to work. We'll see what it does attendance-wise, but I think it's going to work.
It's already working. He really, to me, in the Champion Carnival looked like someone who belonged in the top mix.
Yeah.
He didn't look like someone who they crowned who they were hoping would get over the top. No, in the Carnival, he felt like the biggest deal every night.
Yeah.
Or just about every night. When he was in there with other guys who were, competent guys and not undercard guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did watch the rest of the show, and I could talk about some of it quickly. Ren Yabe and Shotaro Ashino beat Hokuto Omori and Kuma Arashi in an undercard tag. Yabe, again, we've talked about him. There's massive upside there. I skipped the 6-man tag title match with the gimmicky intergender stuff. I skipped the Jiro match because I refused to watch Jiro. The 8-man tag, though, with Dan Tamura, Hikaru Sato, Naruki Doi, and Fuminori Abe. They beat Musashi, Tachibana, Saiki Yoshioka, and Rising Hayato. But the key here was Fuminori Abe pinned Hayato. So he is going to get a junior title shot. Rich, are you into Fuminori Abe versus Rising Hayato for the junior title?
Hell yeah, I am.
Yeah,
that sounds
that
great.
Should be an excellent match. Yeah. So that's an interesting challenger. And depending on what kind of deal they've got with Abe, he could win that. I could see him winning that as an outsider and then, coming back and losing it on another show somewhere. So we keep an eye on that. EC3 defended the NWA title against Ryuki Honda.
I got to know about this one.
Well, it was beyond fucking dreadful. I'm going to make a statement now that people are going to scoff at.
The Overman,
okay?
What was the Overman over in Corkin Hall?
I mean, this is going to sound like a heavy shot. I mean it with full sincerity. I don't know that he's not worse than Tyrus. It's bad. I mean, he's really bad. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. He's
not good. He's not good.
He's really awful. I don't know if there's like, with Tyrus, you had the guy is 400 pounds and he's 50 and his athletic ability is shot. So Tyrus would do things that were above his athletic pay grade at this stage of his life. And it would just look awful. But at least he had kind of a presence because he was 400 fucking pounds. EC3 brings all of the shittiness of Tyrus, but just with no presence. He's just, I don't know how else to describe it. Like this match it was a legitimate dud. Like it was just an awful, awful match. And Ryuki Honda's a decent worker. Like this wasn't on him, but I don't know, man. This was just embarrassingly bad. It was the worst match I saw this week.
There's a great cage match review I saw from a user called Generational Creator. Okay, here's his review. 2.0 is his cage match rating for EC3 versus Ryuki Honda. He says, quote, EC3 fights in a cartoonish way, extremely slow, and his moves don't fit together at any point. A crowd that starts hot and even shouting his name dies less than 3 minutes into the match. The chemistry between them doesn't exist. The selling is so revoltingly bad, there is no storytelling. Honda even tried something good he is promising, but he seemed to be fighting a 70-year-old man with several injuries and osteoporosis who is applying a lariat and stopping to contemplate his own bicep as if he were a teenage character who had just gained powers and was fighting the school bully. His dropkick from the second rope goes on Honda's leg. Terrible. When Honda kicked out of his finisher, I was more desperate than EC3 to see that match that would continue. I like the pile driver. If Honda was fighting Invisible Man, my rating would have been better. 1 star.
Yeah, I mean, I see on Cage Match it's a 3. That's way too high. The match was just god awful. It was irredeemably awful. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. He was just so bad. Yeah, I see someone give it a 1. Yeah, they lost the crowd. It's just an awful match. Now, the Saitos against the End, I did enjoy. I thought that match was a lot of fun. I thought the End, of course, is Paro and Odinson. People might remember them from Dying Days Evolve. They might remember them. Didn't they have an All Japan run a couple years ago? They may have even
It wasn't.
I think they were in All Japan as a tag team.
They were in a tournament, if I remember correctly. They were in a Real World twice. They were in the Real World Tag League. I knew they were in there once. I didn't realize they were in there twice.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah. They had 2 Real World Tag League runs.
Yeah. So Odinson's basically an NWA guy now, which obviously, with EC3 coming in, that explains the connection there. Paro, for whatever reason, I don't know why he's not in. He seems like he'd be a perfect fit for the NWA to work with Odinson, but he's just basically bouncing around the indies at this point. But man, I thought the End looked great, and this was just 4 big dudes having a big dude match. I enjoyed it. This was easily the second best match on the show for me. Granted, I skipped a couple of them. So, if the Jiro match was outstanding, I apologize. I didn't see it. But good, solid title defense for the Saitos against a team that really complemented their style. And that was the semi, and then we had the main event. So there wasn't much to this show. I mean, you had the setup for the next junior title match, outside of the main event, obviously, which was newsworthy and a great match. There wasn't much to the show. I can't imagine they watched EC3 and thought that they need to ever bring this guy back.
I was going to say, you think it's a one and done for
I don't know what the deal is.
The Overman?
I don't even know if Corgan's involved in this, because EC3 has been going around with this title. He's been defending it in some, pretty strange places. Various indies and, he's been working OVW shows and shit like that. So
he was in England. I know he did a shot for some company I never heard of in England a couple of weeks ago. OVW, like you said.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's him booking his own shots and Corgan trusting him, or if Corgan is. I get the sense that Corgan doesn't have anything to do with this, and he just got himself booked in All Japan somehow and brought Odinson with him. And the All Japan side probably remembered that the end had been there before and put that team back together for this match. But this wasn't much of a show outside of the main event and an okay tag title defense.
Move on to the world of Noah here, since we have a little bit of time here. Noah had Noah Limit Break 2, Shinjuku Face, 403 people in the lovely building. One real quick thing about All Japan, and then we'll go back to Noah. One thing that's on my bucket list now, and it's probably going to be too late, and it's probably never going to happen at this point, to see Kento Miyahara come out in Korakuen Hall. Can you imagine what that experience would be like? Like when I watch his Kento Miyahara matches, because he does this pre-match video now where I don't know what he says, but I know he's hyping the crowd up and being like, let's go, it's coming on, like, here we go. And then that music hits, and Kento Miyahara's music is fucking incredible. And then that entire arena chants, Kento, Kento, while that music comes out. And oh my God, I just want to run through a fucking wall when I hear that. It's like, man, that is something that it's like I probably missed the boat, because I don't know if it's ever going to be the peak that it is right now or whatever with Kento Miyahara. Man, that would be great to go. And I'm probably not doing the flight, let's be honest. I'm probably not ever going to Japan. But goddamn, go into Korakuen Hall. There's a lot of things that I missed, and I'm going to see a Wrestle Kingdom and all this sort of, man, going to see Kento Miyahara in Korakuen Hall though is probably on the top of my list of things that I would do if I was in Japan. That I'd make sure that I just make sure that I have the time to do that, because god damn, what an experience that feels like.
It's a special atmosphere when he comes out. He just knows how to manipulate a crowd. He's got a crowd connection. And when we talk about crowd connection, that's such an important thing for a wrestler to have. You got to be able to have some kind of crowd connection, but his is elite 0.01% top tier crowd connection, with their fan base. And it's a shame that we may never get the chance to see what he could have done in a promotion where he'd get more support and there's better financial backing. And because you get the sense that he's a guy, if he could get over to the extent that he'd get over anywhere, because he has it. He has that rare ability to connect. You watch some of these All Japan shows over the years and they could be the deadest of shows. And then he comes out and it's like a completely different crowd. He just has it when it comes to that, especially though in that building. You're right. I mean, it's just, some people, that's a great building for, period. That's the hardcore fans in Japan. But there's some wrestlers who just have, it's just they're, like Tomohiro Ishii, for whatever reason, probably because it's the hardcore fans. That's his fucking building more than any other building that New Japan runs. That's Ishii building. Kento Miyahara, that's his fucking building. And you're right, that, that would be something to experience. A Kento Miyahara entrance with that catchy entrance fucking song.
I love that song. It's stuck in my head all day. If I watch a Kento match that day, it is stuck in my head for the entire day. And I'm just accomplishing tasks.
You're humming
and I'm
it
like,
all day long.
I'm like doing the dishes. Kento. Kento. Kento, you know, in my head while I'm doing the dishes. No one's cheering me on. Nobody gives a shit about me doing the dishes. But God, I'm in my head. I'm like, oh, if Kento can do it, I can. You know what I mean? And then, it's just, what a special atmosphere that is. So sorry to, I interrupted my own intro to Noah, but I just wanted to bring that up about how just incredible it would be to be in Korakuen Hall. You want it to be a Triple Crown title match too. You know what I mean? Like if you can, to make it perfect. Better than just like a random tag on you want like a main event
carnival match or something.
Kento Miyahara Carnival or Triple Crown match in Korakuen Hall. That's what I want. But I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So, all right, let's get to Noah here. Shinjuku Face. Would I go there if I went to Japan? Probably. Why not? Shinjuku Face 403 for Noah Limit Break 2.
Yeah, they fucking shoot. Let me tell you something. They crowbarred 400 people in there for this match.
400 fucking people in this.
And that was a hot 400 people.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, look, you can't go crazy because it's 400 people in Shinjuku Face. But for this Limit Break show,
that's
for the
it,
0-1 title, they fucking drew for this thing. I know it was only 400 people, okay? I understand that. But they were, this was like an overflow crowd, and they were hot for this fucking match.
I want to say that building only has like on a couple sides, there's only like 3 or 4 rows of chairs. Then there's that kind of elevated bleachers area, and that's got, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 rows of chairs or whatever. So I mean, that's 400 fucking people is 400 people in this building. Trust me, there's not that much more room than the 400 they stuffed in there. So people 0-1, man. 0-1's the draw. So Akitoshi Saito defending the 0-1 World Heavyweight Championship against Go Shiozaki in the main event. Goes to a time limit draw, 30-minute time limit draw. I did not expect that. I watched the match unspoiled. I'm glad I did. 30-minute time limit draw. I did not expect that. Kind of thought Go Shiozaki was going to win the title, but I guess that Go Shiozaki realized I don't really want to wrestle. I don't really want the 0-1 title, but we kind of know what's going to happen afterwards anyway. But we'll get to the post-match and what's going to happen with the 0-1 title in a bit. But what'd you make of Saito versus Go Shiozaki? Time limit draw, 30 minutes.
I never considered the time limit draw. And now I feel dumb because like you, I watched it unspoiled. Believe me, it wasn't hard. There's not a lot of people talking about the 0-1 world title.
I know. I was like, I mentioned to you, I mentioned to you earlier in the day. Has that match happened yet? It did happen. Okay. I'm trying to go unspoiled. And then I realized, where am I going to go that I was going to be talking about that? If I don't go into the miscellaneous Puro or the Noah channels in our Discord, I'm fairly certain I can go on Twitter and no one's going to be talking about Akitoshi Saito, Go Shiozaki. I'm fairly certain I can go on to Fightful.com and no one's lead topic. Yeah. It's not going to be Akitoshi Saito, Go Shiozaki go to time limit draw for 0-1 World Heavyweight title. So then I realized,
hold on, you're telling me Dave and Brian didn't break that down?
Dave and Brian did not bring it up. Yeah. Right. So then I realized, wait a minute, because I'm doing that thing where like if I try to stay unspoiled, which is very difficult for me because I'm trying to post stuff, I'm trying to read stuff.
Sure.
And I'm trying to get ready for the show and do all that sort of stuff. So it's very hard to do that. So a lot of times then I'm like, all right, I want to watch this match, so I'm just going to stay off of anything. I'm going to stay offline. We're not going to post the show notes. I'm not going to ask you about what you want to talk about this tonight. I'm just going to stay offline for as much as I can until I can watch this. And then I realized no one's talking about Saito Go Shiozaki. I'm fine. And then I just watched it at 1 p.m. after doing my just normal day of things. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm not going to get spoiled. I'm positive of it for Noah Limit Break 2 in Shinjuku Face. But there it is. Time limit draw. I was stunned.
It's funny how my progress bar was all the way at the end of the show when I logged on because I knew I hadn't watched it yet. But so I didn't get spoiled though. I
put it to the end. I put it all the way to the end for you.
So
I should put it to the front. I should put it at the beginning. I apologize, but
I didn't even consider the draw, and I should have. I just thought it was a formality that Go Shiozaki. Now look, we all knew Go Shiozaki was not going to lose to Akitoshi Saito on a Noah show, let alone especially on a Noah show. I didn't consider it a draw, and I should have. Because once you put the title on Go Shiozaki, think about this. How the fuck do you get it off him? Because who in 0-1 is going to have the clout to beat him? You know what I mean? Politically, who could you put over? Maybe Masato Tanaka, if you go back that route. You can't beat him with like Chris Weiss. I was gonna say, do that.
Go Shiozaki ain't doing the 1, 2, 3, the JOB to Chris Weiss. Or
so then you're kind of trapped at that point, and you can't get out of it. So I should have thought about the draw. I'm glad I didn't. Now, as far as the match, this is going to sound wild. This is one of my favorite matches this year. I loved this fucking match. And people are going to think I'm out of my mind, maybe. Or what did you think? Did you think it was great? Because I thought it was great.
I loved it.
Okay. So maybe I'm not as crazy as I think I am. Because
We are crazy.
Okay.
You know, we're definitely crazy because a lot of people would probably watch this match and not enjoy it, but I think there's going to be a very distinct reason why you and I do enjoy it.
Well, it's really weird because it's not a match I'm comfortable recommending to everyone where I'm like, everyone's got to go track down this match, because I do think a lot of people would think it sucked. Because Saito is just, the guy can barely move.
He can't move.
But this was, if you're, he's never going to have a match this good again. This is going to be the last great match he ever has.
Absolutely, this is it for him.
And because what they had to do to make this a great match was just beat the living shit out of each other to the point of danger. I mean, I felt bad.
Saito looked like he was crying at one point. Esco was just slapping this poor man's chest, was just bleeding and beat red, just slapping him and slapping him. No, stop. He's a man.
I couldn't believe the physicality, and it made for a really special match. And, a lot of pro wrestling these days, we just talked about Tomohiro Ishii versus Masa Kitamiya. We talked about Masa Kitamiya versus Takashi Sagara a few weeks before that, and how wrestling is lacking just tough guys. Wrestling used to be a business of tough guys. It used to be bouncers would get recruited by the promoters in the local towns to become wrestlers.
Right. You look tough. You gave this wrestling thing a chance. That's what it would be. The promoter would go to a bar in the town, and he'd see a fight happen, and then he would see a bouncer toss a guy out and say, "Hey, pal, you ever think about wrestling?" And that's how a lot of guys became wrestlers.
Yeah. You're a big guy, you're good looking, you think you might have some charisma, give this a shot. And a lot of them would flame out, but it would be bouncers, bikers, college football players, ne'er-do-wells. Yeah, that's what wrestling was made up of. Tough guys that could really beat your ass, And the wrestling business has really gotten away from that, and there's less and less just big guys. I just watched the Saitos wrestle the end, and it's just 4 big motherfuckers beating the shit out of each other. 4 guys who you probably wouldn't want confronting you in a dark alley, right? Like you want to get hunted down by Paro? You want to face?
Hell no.
That guy's
compare that to Rising Hayato. If I met Rising Hayato in an alley, I'd be like, I could probably take this guy, right? Like I ain't taking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned.
Paro, Odinson, Akitoshi Saito. Are you kidding me? I'm not taking those guys.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Akitoshi Saito, 330 pounds. He's got a haircut like Elvis. He's got the ducktail in the front.
He looks like a bit character. He looks like a bit Yakuza member in like a Japanese movie. Like in Rush Hour, like Rush Hour, like in Rush Hour 2 or something. They go to Tokyo, and there's a background Yakuza gang member. That's Akitoshi Saito. And not to fuck with that guy. He's got his arms crossed. He's wearing a suit. He's got his hair like Elvis. He's 58, but he's seen some shit, and he's killed, and he'll kill again.
He'll kill. He's got that old guy strength. He's got the cobra tattoo. You don't fuck with that guy.
The cobra tattoo. Okay? Yeah, fuck no.
Look. It's those big tough guys. Go Shiozaki was the last of that generation. Who came out of Noah. He was supposed to be the guy to lead them into the future, and we all know how that went. Whatever happened there, and it didn't work out. His career's been snake bit, but, he's a guy willing to put himself through that kind of fucking torture to make sure a match with a 58-year-old Akitoshi Saito comes across okay, and they just beat the shit out of each other the way that Masa Kitamiya and Takashi Sagara did. And this was tough guys having a tough guy match, and there's just not enough of that in wrestling. And maybe because of that, I like matches like this more than I reasonably should, but I just really thought that this was such a diversion from putting on NXT and seeing all those fake plastic factory wrestlers that they're churning out that I have no interest in watching. There's not a single wrestler in NXT, with the exception of maybe Trick Williams, because I think he has a chance to be a star, that I have any interest in watching. They're just plastic, disposable, fake pro wrestlers, and stuff like this is such a diversion from that. And you look around Japan at the top of the cards, and that's all these pretty boys and icky men and twinks. And it's just, we have so few wrestlers that are like this, that are willing to go in there and just beat the living shit out of each other. And that you can buy as tough guys, and it's few and far between. And it's become a style that has become rare, and a style that when I have a chance to find it and sink my teeth into it, I do. And, this match starts off with Saito pile driving Go Shiozaki on the floor and trying to win by countout. And, and then from there, it's just both of them by the end of the match look like they were in a car accident. They're blood trickling from their noses. Their chests are beat up like fucking mincemeat. Okay, Shiozaki's arms are all red and scratched and fucked up because Saito kept chopping his arms so he could break down his arm so he couldn't give him the lariat. Saito at one point, he gave Shiozaki, 8 or 9 Uranages in a row and just kept trying to throw him through the mat? He just kept picking him up and throwing him through the fucking mat. And Go is just taking these fucking bumps. He gave him 9 Uranages in a row. And in between, he's chopping down his arm like a fucking tree to take away the lariat. And then Go is chopping the shit out of Saito. And they both look like they look like they got in a head-on collision on the fucking freeway, and then got out and had a fight.
They got mad at each other and blamed the other guy for starting the other guy. You started. Now fuck you, and then they just start beating the fuck out of each other after their head-on collision.
And which is ironic because after the bell rang for the draw, they kept beating the shit out of each other.
Okay. And this is where I want to interject here. This is what I loved about this match so much, and it's like it was after the match technically. The time limit draw happened. In America and in most wrestling, what would you see if there was a time limit draw? You would see the babyface champion, act exhausted. He'd lay on the mat exhausted and put his hands on his head or whatever. And that would kind of be the, oh my God, I survived. And oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And yeah, we got to the time limit draw. And then you might see the babyface challenger get mad and slam the mat and say, oh God, I almost had it. I ran out of time. I did whatever. In America, you'd see the heel champion grab his title and hold it on his chest as close as possible. I survived. Oh, I survived the time limit draw. I'm okay. And you might see the heel, the challenger, might get upset and yell and maybe attack the guy after the ring. What happened here is Akitoshi Saito, who keeps his title, by the way, decided, nah, I'm not done with this motherfucker just yet. It just keeps beating on him and beating him. And the crowd's like, no, the match is over. The referee's like, no, they're ringing the bell. They're trying to do it. And Saito's just like, no, I want more of this motherfucker. Let's go. I'm gonna beat your ass. And Shiozaki's like, all right, man, you want to fucking go? Let's fucking go. Shiozaki initially is like, it's over, man. Time limit draw. It's fine. And then Saito keeps fighting him. And he's like, all right, motherfucker, I'll fight you too then. And then they just keep fighting. They don't want to stop fighting. The idea is that I'm the tough guy and I want to prove how tough I am. And I'm not going to accept a time limit draw. I'm just going to keep on beating you so people know that I'm tougher than you are. So none of this, oh my God, give me my title right away. Oh, I still have my title. Oh my God. No, the titles come and go. You know what I mean? But this guy, he wants to prove he's tougher than this guy. I'm tougher than you, motherfucker. I'm not going to go down without a fight. I love the bell ringing and them just fighting each other, and Saito being the one that's fighting Go Shiozaki after the bell, even though he survived and he kept his title. God, I love that.
And keep in mind, in the storyline, they're pals.
They're teaming together in a couple days. We're going to talk about this schedule in a bit.
Because they're Team Noah and they were been warring with Team 01.
Yeah.
All year. They're pals. And this just viciousness. This match had a real vicious streak to it that, with today's wrestling, I really appreciated. So, it was, I enjoyed the fuck out of it. It's one of my favorite matches that I've seen this year, even if the work wasn't super clean or at time. But, I didn't even really have a massive problem with the work. I mean, Saito is an older guy who usually isn't out there having great matches or anything like that. I mean, that probably about, man, I was going to talk about an N1 victory match he had against Lance Archer, but that was probably 8 years ago now. It's probably almost a decade ago at this point. When did Suzuki-gun invade Noah? 2016 or something?
2016, 2015 and 2016.
So that would have been like 8-9 years ago, and I remember him having a really good N1 match with Lance Archer. It's probably the last anything resembling a great match that he's had in a very long time. And he was still 50 then. He was probably 49, 50 years old, 51 years old at the time. But yeah, I don't know. This was, this kind of pro wrestling is really just works for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
When there's just so little of it, and I'm afraid it's like a dying style. And
it is.
The other thing
don't be afraid of it. It is. We talked about this, and we've talked about this a lot with Okabayashi and Sakamoto and those kind of guys. Once those guys are done, there's no one coming up. Saito's 58. You know what I mean? Go Shiozaki is how old is Go Shiozaki at this point? He's got to be getting up there.
40, 41.
He's got to be. I think he's maybe younger than a lot of people think because he's been around forever. But how old is Go Shiozaki? Let's see here. 42. He's 42.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the
Now,
Saitos, but there's not a whole lot of guys coming up that are like this. These just badasses. This kind of style. There's not many of them.
A lot of rising Hayatos.
Right.
Look at the top. I mean, it's a lot of Ikemen types in Japan. It has been for a decade now, and that's okay too. And I like a lot of those guys. Just we're running out of just the tough guy. Name me an American pro wrestler on TV who looks like he came from a bar as a bouncer. I mean, you just don't have them anymore. Like a guy who, is the baddest motherfucker in town. It doesn't. And WWE is not going to change that. You could see what they're recruiting. They're recruiting reality show contestants. You look at NXT. It's all a bunch of pretty people.
Yeah, they're hot as fuck. Everyone's just so hot, annoyingly hot. But yeah, that's all they're looking for.
None of them come across tough or they're not recruiting Scott Norton. They're not recruiting the fucking Road Warriors. That's not what they're doing. You're getting a lot of Fallon Henleys and Tony Two Stack of Dimes next D'Amato, whatever.
Yeah. That's you're Kiana Jameses of the world, and you're those kind of guys, girls, and
the little annoying girl that's in Chase U who I can't stand. Like that's the future of the business.
Thea Hale, Kalani Jordan, like that's who you're getting. Like those.
I don't want to watch these people. They're not interesting to me. None of them are interesting to me. Nobody. NXT is just such a not. And that's WWE's future. That's what they're going for. That's what you're going to get. When all of the pro wrestlers age out of WWE, that's who's replacing them. And this is something that I've been trying to warn people about for the last 2 years. This is a deliberate strategy by that company. Okay? It's going to get worse, not better. And, what's the Indies producing? The Indies isn't drawing from high school dumb jock ex-football players and tough guys. The Indies are drawing from counterculture groups. It's no longer the high school football player who wants to continue to do something athletic and takes up pro wrestling because, it looks like something cool to do because you can drop people on their heads. That's not who's getting into pro wrestling anymore. It's the kids that are smoking under the bleachers during the football game. That's who's getting into pro wrestling. And the current indie scene reflects that. It's the culture has changed. And that's what's feeding the major leagues. Right? So there's very few Brian Keiths out there. I wish there was a lot more. But there's very few Brian Keiths on the indie scene these days. And there's a lot of, people coming from different backgrounds and such that don't exact, it's indie wrestling has just gone in a different direction because of the talent pool that they're drawing from. And WWE is going for television stars over pro wrestlers. And, in Japan for the last decade or so, it's been pretty boys on top. And the tough guy is a dying breed. And it's a shame because that's what the industry used to be built on. And I feel like there used to be more variety in what we would see in on a typical pro wrestling card. But there's rare case, a match like this, two guys that are from a different era, and they went out there, and it was, in a lot of ways it was similar to when Okada wrestled Tenryu. Now Saito's not at the point that Tenryu was in that match, but I think these guys knew they had to have this kind of match in order to make it work. And they did. And it looked like they were in a train accident by the time it was over. So, I don't know. For me, I loved it.
Yeah, I was a big fan of it. And I do have Noah's upcoming cards here. Do you want to talk about the rest of this show? Did you watch anything else from this Limit Break 2? I only watched the main event.
It's the only match I saw. Yeah,
okay.
I didn't watch the rest of it.
Nothing else looked too enticing for you. Jun Akiyama versus
I don't know. I want to see
Togi. That's interesting.
Togi versus Akiyama, and I'm going to watch Daisuke Sekimoto versus Yu Iwata, who's a young guy who, Yu Iwata is obviously not Daisuke Sekimoto.
Right.
Yu Iwata is a young rookie who's on the come up in Noah, who they're trying to build. And, I always enjoy watching Daisuke Sekimoto, even though he's on the wrong side of his peak. And, so, and I've been enjoying Noah lately. So, that it looks like an easy enough show to watch. And I'll tell you, it looked like a hot crowd for that building. So, and that building tends to have hot crowds, but it just seemed like a hotter crowd than usual. So I'll probably go back and throw this on as background noise and check it out because I've been into Noah lately.
Well, you're going to be more into it, too, when I read these cards coming up, man. They have a lot of good stuff on the way. June 9th, big match on that night is going to be Kaito Kiyomiya and Kano versus Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee. Yohei and Tadasuke defending the GHC junior heavyweight titles against Shuji Kondo and Eita. Jack Morris, Naomichi Marufuji, a few other things here and there on that show. So that's not a big one. Oh, sorry, Anthony Green and Takashi Sugiura. I knew there was another one. And Ohara, Hajime Ohara versus LJ Cleary, which sounds pretty good as well. So Anthony Green Sugiura is an interesting match that I think I don't know how that's gonna work, but I kind of like it. Jack Morris Marufuji, that sounds good. It seems like a pretty fun card. That's on the 9th. Then they have Grand Ship 2024 in Yokohama. This is a big time show now here. This is on June 16th. GHC heavyweight title match, Kaito Kiyomiya versus Gabe Kidd. GHC tag team titles, Jack Morris and Anthony Green versus Marufuji and Sugiura. Daga versus Starboy Charlie. And a few other things on the undercard as well. But that looks like a pretty fun show there on the 16th. And then the 19th is their 20th anniversary of Go Shiozaki show. That's on the 19th. Go Shiozaki teaming with Jun Akiyama versus Marufuji and Sugiura. And then Akitoshi Saito versus Chris Weiss, which we should note that after the match, Chris Weiss said, "You beat me for that title, motherfucker. Now I want to face you for the title, motherfucker." And that's kind of the extent. That's exactly what he said, by the way. So
I'm sure that's what he said. Yeah,
I would assume that that's the end of Akitoshi Saito as the 0-1 World Heavyweight Champion. I believe.
You think it ends there, huh?
I think it ends there. Yeah,
probably does end there. Yeah, Noah's doing some interesting things. I mean, it's between these limit break shows and the what were the weird Monday fucking
Monday Magic, wasn't it called Monday Magic?
Monday Magic shows, which a lot of times were, so they've been doing a lot of outside the box things that you don't typically see in Japanese promotions in terms of the way they're booking their shows. So
I forgot about this match too. Kaz Fujita versus Higuchi from DDT.
Oh, that's out of left field.
It's very out of left field. And then Mohamed Yone versus Suji Ishikawa. This is still on that the Go Shiozaki 20th anniversary show. And then, I thought you would like this one.
Well, they were on opposite sides of a tag on the limit break show, Yone and Suji Ishikawa. Yeah. Yone and Kikuchi beat Black Menso Ray and Suji Ishikawa, who were the two of the guys who left All Japan earlier this year and are now doing a lot of Noah shots. And Suji Ishikawa, I think, is still like their hardcore or extreme, whatever they call it. The one he won from Ninja Mac.
I know you're going to like this one. It says 20 minutes, one match, Go Shiozaki 20th anniversary show. Yu Owada, like you said, young rookie, young upstart, against Mazada.
Oh, my God.
The scummer.
Where are they pulling these people from?
I don't know. It's Go Shiozaki's buddies. We know he's drinking buddies now, I guess.
Maybe, I guess.
So it's... I got to see that. I got to see. What the fuck is Mazada? I have not seen... I know he's done some GLEAT. He was doing a lot of... What was the name of that one company? Oh, let me find out what the hell this thing was. They were streaming on Facebook for a little while. Vamostar or Vamostar or whatever. Do you remember Vamostar?
No.
They're very... Yeah, they run this very weird building. It's essentially a bar. And they used to stream somewhere. I don't know if they're even doing that anymore. I watched a couple, and then I was like, what am I doing? There's so much wrestling. Why am I watching these guys wrestle in a bar? It's so good. It's like these, 10-minute time limit draws with Mazada. And I'm like, what am I doing here? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, but sometimes, that's like when Collega Pro existed. Like,
yeah. Sometimes it's just good to have on in the background.
To it.
Yeah, it's good to have a game on.
Yeah.
Like you always say, it's good to have a game. It's like, here's a game I can watch.
Collega was like that for me, where I really got into it for a while. And remember DTU out of Mexico?
Oh, yeah.
Right around 20 14 or so, I was so into that because I don't know why. It was just available. And the shows reminded me of like ECW in a weird way. They were doing flaming tables and they had like these athletic guys. And I don't know. It's just, sometimes you find these little niche promotions and they just, something about them connects with you. And you'll spend like 6 months just locked in to Collega Pro for no reason.
Yeah, right.
And it's, you're like, why am I watching all these Andy Wu matches? I'm just so into Andy Wu right now in Collega Pro, and
well, they were the best because they were streaming every day. Their
every
strategy
day,
was
shows every day.
We're gonna have a wrestling show every day, so you always knew no matter what the day was, Collega Pro was waiting for you, and then it wasn't.
Then it just was gone. It's gone, right? I don't think it existed.
I believe it's done now. Yeah, I believe Collega Pro is done. So, let me double check that.
Let me verify that.
Yeah, I was subscribed to their YouTube channel too, so I'll see.
Still running. No, they're done.
Yeah.
They were done in 2022.
Yeah, they're replaying matches from 2022, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I guess Koji Doi was the last champion, and it's going to be one of those deals where he has like a 9,000 day title reign because the promotion never shuts down officially. Yeah. Because he beat Andy Wu at one point.
Right.
And it's like you're going to turn around and because they're never going to really shut down because like you said, they're just running old matches, right? So they're going to like run like a show a year and you're going to look up and he's going to be like a 5,000 day champion. That happens a lot in Mexico.
Yeah.
Where guys are like, 7,000 day champions and someone just decides, hey, do you still have that belt? And they're like, yeah, I think I got it in my closet somewhere. And then they come out and lose it to the next. It's just, that's what's going to happen here. There's a lot of titles in Japan and Mexico that are like that.
Yeah, I've wanted to do a written series one of these days, a written or audio series going through a lot of those titles and just talking about how they got to where they're got to. Because, you'll go to Cage Match and you'll be like, what the fuck? This guy's been champion for 8,183 days.
Yeah.
And then you look and he hasn't defended the title since 2013 or whatever. It's just that they don't, the company that he, won that title from, they just got rid of the title. But they didn't do like a full on, like the title has been vacated. They're just like, whatever. You want to keep the title?
Sometimes
keep the title.
Sometimes it's a cage match thing where they just don't, accept the fact that it's dead. But sometimes it's the title's still alive.
Right. And the guy will defend it like once or twice a decade for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's good. I love that. Yeah. So that is the world of Pro Wrestling Noah there. So New Japan Pro Wrestling. Best of the Super Juniors semifinals is half set, but by the time most of you listen to this, it will be fully set because I think they're doing a show. We're recording this on the 30th. There's a show tomorrow morning, so the other half of the semifinals will be set tomorrow morning. But for the purposes of all the live viewers, we'll go through it right now. So the A block of the semifinals, the A block end of the semis is set. El Desperado took the top spot, so he is the A1. And TJP as the Asswang, Joe. Asswang came back. I know you're excited about the Asswang.
He's going to wrestle the semi as the gimmick?
He wrestled, he booked his ticket to the semis as Asswang, so I imagine he's going to wrestle the semi as Asswang as well. So,
all right.
Yep. They did the thing where like his music plays and Chris Charles is like, I don't know what's going on, guys. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like I'm like it's Asswang, man. Come on, we know it's the. But I love it that Chris is like, what? This is most unbelievable. What's this noise that's playing over the speakers? And it was the Asswang, and then he had the chance to give us the backstory of the Asswang, which Chris did a very good job. It was Chris and Walker doing the because Walker's back as well, so they're back on their game here, and the Asswang was back in full force. So TJP took A2. So tomorrow the B block end will get solved. The great Jay Michael wrote an unbelievable piece for VoiceOfWrestling.com about all the different scenarios that can all take place. I hate to tell you though, the B block, Joe, not very interesting. Do you want all the scenarios here?
Run through them.
All right. Taiji Ishimori is guaranteed to advance no matter what happens in Taiji Ishimori versus Hiromu Takahashi, the first time ever match here in the Best of the Super Juniors 2024.
First time ever.
Taiji Ishimori, Hiromu. You could double check, but
Don't look it up.
Don't look it up. Don't even double check it. I think I'm right, but just in case, if you want, you can double check. But okay, Taiji Ishimori guaranteed to advance. If he beats Hiromu Takahashi, he wins the block. If he loses, he takes second place because he has tiebreakers over both Dookie and Robbie Eagles. So Taiji Ishimori, no matter what happens in his match with Hiromu, he's in.
You know what he should do? He should not show up.
then yeah, right? Because if he took I think J. Michael has that. If he does take like a default or because then because how do they score that then? Because he gets 0 points, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, you're saying he doesn't?
He should just stay home.
Yeah, he probably should.
He should just take the night off and rest up his body.
I guess maybe there's a scenario where like if he didn't show up and they assumed that he was dead, that maybe they would put somebody else through. But I guess if he calls and says I'm not going to be there.
Well, he should show up and then roll out of the ring and just walk to the back like Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah. Hell with this. to take the powder.
Throw his hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw his hands.
Get my title belt. Tell Jimmy Hart to get the title belt and then walk away. Yeah.
Touching the title, taking his jowls,
right.
And just get out of there.
Great gimmick. It was so good.
So good.
I love the honky tonk. Just roll out of the ring. Hell. To hell with this.
Yeah.
Throw his hands in the air.
Just throw his hands and go. And every now and then there'd be a babyface waiting for him at the entrance to chase him back in.
Right.
You have like George Animal Steel over there, chasing them back into the ring.
So that's Taiji. Hiromu wins the block if he defeats Taiji Ishimori. So if he defeats Taiji Ishimori in this first time ever match, he wins the block. If he loses, he needs Robbie Eagles to defeat or draw with Dookie, and Dookie holds the tiebreaker, the head-to-head tiebreaker on Takahashi. So Hiromu needs to win the block, and if he loses, he needs Robbie Eagles to defeat or draw with Dookie.
Well, Hiromu's going through.
Hiromu is going to beat Taiji Ishimori, and Hiromu is going to go through as the A1. Taiji Ishimori is going to go through as the A2. Real quick, I'll give you the other scenarios. Dookie needs to defeat Robbie Eagles, then have Taiji Ishimori defeat Hiromu Takahashi. That would result in Dookie and Takahashi tied at 12 points. Dookie would advance with the head-to-head tiebreaker. Probably not happening, but Gato should not be a coward, and that's what he should do instead of running back Hiromu. And
no shot.
Yeah, he's not going to do that. Robbie Eagles has lost to both Taiji Ishimori and Hiromu Takahashi, and trails both by 2 points. He is eliminated, so he's out. So there you go. Dookie has a prayer. Probably not. It's going to be Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori. But if you want all the scenarios, J. Michael, great piece over there at voicesofwrestling.com. So now what this gets us set up for, Joe, get you all squared away for Best of the Super Juniors. 31, I believe, is it? 31? So you have, as I said, A block. Let me make sure I get all the things right. So you have A block number 1, El Desperado. Okay. He'll be facing in the semifinals. Let's assume Taiji Ishimori, right? I think you and I both agree Hiromu's going to win Taiji Ishimori. So A1, El Desperado. B2, Taiji Ishimori. B1, Hiromu Takahashi versus A2, TJP/Asswang. Do you think maybe, just maybe, El Desperado's going to win that top half? Hiromu's going to win that bottom half. El Desperado versus Hiromu as the main event of New Japan Dominion. Thoughts? It's out of the box. I agree. It's wild. Really out of left field, but that's my thought. El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi. What do you think?
Get into it? I don't know.
You want to get more into Dominion? Breaking news just came on this show as we are doing this. The Dominion match between Jon Moxley and Evil will now be a lumberjack match.
Oh, fantastic!
I know, which we're excited.
Get all
about.
Evil's guys out there and have them perfectly legal, Cole.
Right, you were wondering, oh man, how are they going to muck this match up? Well, Joe, they're going to muck it up from the fucking second it starts to the second it ends.
Great, sounds like a lot of fun for this Evil title win. I have breaking news for you.
Oh God, what do you got?
Great Okan, Yuya Uemura have agreed on their rules for their King of Pro Wrestling match at Dominion.
Okay.
It'll be catch rules with grapples and submissions allowed, but no strikes. But wait, there's more. It will either be a 61-minute time limit.
Okay.
2 out of 3 falls.
I like it. You know what? That's bold. I appreciate that. I like that.
There's no one wants to watch.
They're like, fuck you.
Uemura.
It's 61 minutes. Get ready. I like it.
No. You want to watch Yuya Uemura and Great-O-Khan grapple for 61 minutes?
No.
No, you don't.
I don't. No, I don't. You're right.
2 out of 3 falls, or 15 minutes with limited rope breaks, which basically makes it a ROH pure match.
A pure title. Yeah, a pure title here. Okay.
Yeah. So I think fans vote on the.
I hope they vote.
Portions
I hope they call their fucking bluff and vote 61.
Oh, for God's sake, could you imagine?
I hope. Japanese New Japan Wrestling fans, please call their bluff.
That doesn't mean it has to go 61 minutes.
Oh, I see. It's just a 61-minute. Yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to go.
Well, all right, hold on.
Minutes.
Let me look into this because that's
says, a very specific number there.
Yeah, hold on. Let me double check.
Is it like most falls in 61 minutes or something like that?
I'm checking now. It because the tweet isn't very specific. Okay, here we go. Okan elaborated, if he feels like taking out rope breaks, forcing a win in under 15 minutes, tougher rule set. It means no excuses. We have no issues with that. The potential of going 61 minutes is a different kind of toughness. We have no problem with either rules. I believe it's just a 61-minute time limit. Yeah, it's a 61-minute time limit.
Okay.
So they
could go 10. They could go 10 in that.
Yeah, it's either 61-minute time limit, 2 out of 3 falls, catch rules. Now, wait, this says something different here. Hold on. Why is this always so fucking confusing? It says...
just go back to eating octopus. Just do that again.
No, okay. April 27th. April 27th.
Where are you? What is going on here?
That's what it says. I don't know. I'm just reading right off the fucking Medium website that fucking New Japan's website is on now.
Right.
All right, I'll read this to you. You tell me if this makes sense.
All right.
A special press conference released on May 31 saw Great-O-Khan and Yuya Uemura present their choices of rules for King of Pro Wrestling 2024, June 9th at Dominion. In stark contrast to the rural revitalization rules that he had proposed while holding the title, Great-O-Khan deferred to the title holder and presented the same stipulation Yuya Uemura had when challenging April 27th in Hiroshima, a 61-minute time limit, 2 out of 3 falls catch rules match. The bout will forbid strikes with only throws, grappling, and submissions allowed.
So those are together. It's a 61-minute, 2 out of 3 falls match.
That says that they're together, but the tweet didn't say that.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. The tweet says, will it be 61 minutes, comma, 2 out of 3 falls, comma, or 15 minutes with limited rope breaks? That's what the tweet says. That indicates 3 choices. But the article is saying 61-minute time limit, 2 out of 3 falls, or 15 minutes with limited rope breaks. 2 choices. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The comma in the tweet is fucking everything up, because the comma after 61 minutes, while grammatically correct, makes it look like it's 3 choices, but it's 2 choices. It's a 61-minute time limit, 2 out of 3 fall match, or a 15-minute match with limited rope breaks. So there you go.
Fantastic. And this is coming up at
Why
Dominion.
Does it have to be so confusing
I don't...
every time?
This is at Dominion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In response, Yuya Uemura presented his stipulation of a storm catch rules match. Under this ruling, again, strikes will be prohibited in favor of throws, grapples, and submissions. Under these rules, there will be a 15-minute time limit, and rope breaks or leaving the ring will be limited to twice, after which rope break will constitute a disqualification. Okan elaborated and says, quote, if he feels like taking out rope breaks, forcing a win in under 15 minutes is the tougher rule set, if it means no excuses, we have no issue with that. Who's we? Is he 2 people? The potential of going 61 minutes
in your pocket or what? What's going on here?
Is a different kind of toughness. We have no problem with either rules. Uemura says, quote, I chose a stricter framework. We have to get the match done in 15 minutes with only 2 rope breaks. It'll be more exciting. I'm with you, Amora. I don't need to see these guys out there for 61 minutes. I just don't need it.
I welcome it.
I don't need to see him out there at all, if I'm being completely honest with you. I wouldn't mind if someone comes down with the flu. Are they still taking temperatures before these guys come in the building? Maybe someone could be like 98 degrees or something. Wait, that's normal.
Nick
Maybe
Lachey,
one of these guys could be 100 degrees or something. I'm just skimming the rest of this. This is a long article to break down 2 different rule choices here. This has to be 4,000 words.
We're still
this
going.
is like a Bill Simmons trade deadline article to describe these 2
it's a BS
different sets of rules here.
A BS mailbag from 2007.
All right, so it looks like 2 different choices. Very confusing tweet. So there you go. Lots of breaking Dominion news here as we wrap up this, as we stall to get to the 3-hour mark so we can get the fuck out of here.
No, I'm not stalling at all. That's not stalling whatsoever. I'm giving you breaking Dominion news right out of the gates here with this lumberjack match. Man, remember how fucking awful that Evil Sonata lumberjack match was?
Yes.
I'm confident Mox could have a better lumberjack match, but I'm confident that I'm going to hate this match already. But
remember how fucking awful Evil is
just in general. No other, nothing else necessary. Just is. Yeah. We did forget to mention here. Before we get out of here. All Japan. Yuma Anzai defeats Kento Miyahara. I'm thinking, oh my god, this guy's just he's gonna win forever. Who can beat this guy? Hideki Suzuki comes out and challenges him. You don't think, right?
No, why would he come out?
No, he came out though.
Of what? What are you talking about?
No, Hideki Suzuki came out and challenged Yuma Anzai after the match, didn't he? Or did he not? Am I imagining
I
something?
turned it off. I didn't see that.
Did he not? Hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me make sure.
Well, I don't know. I exited immediately when the match ended.
I thought I saw. Hold on a minute. Let me double check.
Well, he beat him in the carnival.
Yes, I think he did come out and
so it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a little worried now. Well, that's not going to work for me, brother. Out of Hideki, they wouldn't, would they?
Win the title, you mean?
Yeah. At least time limit draw, right? He's going time limit.
I think he could lose, but I mean, him winning, could that be his concession for losing all those matches he's lost? I mean, it's not impossible. Maybe he just doesn't have the same ego he used to have, but I'd be pretty surprised if he won the title.
I would be too, yeah. But I think I saw that and I gasped and I went, "Oh no, oh no."
Well, I didn't see that, but we all knew he was going to get a shot because he beat him in the carnival. So, from that standpoint, presuming Anzai got through the match, which, you had to figure that because Suzuki beat him. I don't remember what night it was, but he beat him in that.
Right, he beat him in the carnival. Yeah, let me see if they have a date for when that match is happening, if it became official or not. Let's see here. All right, it is going to happen on June 24th at Korakuen Hall, Dynamite Series 2024. Yuma Anzai versus Hideki Suzuki. Korakuen Hall?
Yeah.
It can happen.
Korakuen Hall, yeah. We'll see how it draws.
Yeah, there you go. So locked in.
I don't think he's going to win. I'm not worried about it. I mean,
I can't not be worried. It's that guy.
I mean, look. I guess it's not impossible. I don't see it.
Time limit draw would be tough too, because the Triple Crowns are 60? Yeah.
What's
60
the
minutes.
point of the time limit draw? I don't understand. To do another one?
No, just to get Hideki Suzuki out of doing a job.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to have Anzai lose to the guy and draw with him.
It is Hideki.
Because
I'll remind you, it's Hideki Suzuki.
No, I understand that, but you don't have to book it. And other companies have been cowardly in the way that they booked him, The solution to Hideki Suzuki when he pulls his shit is just not to book him in the matches to begin with. You know what I mean? That's the solution. So I think he beat Anzai knowing that he was going to lose to him later.
Right. Get a
Korakuen
Hall main event, get a decent payday out of it. You know, right. I mean, have a match in front, you know, be a main eventer in a big time Korakuen Hall show. So yeah, that may have been the concept.
I'm not seeing the same level of ego from him in this run. He's lost a lot of matches.
He has. Yeah, he has. I'm just, you know, my antenna goes. I've been hurt by him before. I get it.
You have like PTSD. I understand, but
it makes sense that he
that one Noah run, he just would never lose to anyone. You know what I mean? He just before he went to WWE. Ever since he's come back, he's been like, it's different. Like he's lost a lot of matches in All Japan, and I've had the same fears too. So I'm like, oh fuck, he must be winning the carnival. You know what I mean? But it's like he loses to Suwama, he loses to the Saitos. He doesn't always like get the comeuppance later. He just, I don't know. He's just a guy on the roster, really. You know, I don't sense that he's got the same like crazy demands, and you can't, you know, that don't work for me, brother stuff. It doesn't seem to be there on this run in this company. With all that said, he'll probably fucking win the title now. But I just don't, I don't see it. I don't think he'll win that match. I think he's going to lose.
All right, so that is it for us. We have hit the 3-hour mark. We are out of here. So again, a lot of bonus audio up at flagshippatreon.com. Flagship Plus from you earlier the week. Maybe another one coming from me this weekend or the next couple of days as well. Trying to put that together, so look out for that. A new episode of Bret vs. Owen dropping tomorrow, covering May of 1994 in the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart feud. Thursday, Dynamite review. Also, we're putting up a lot of press releases. If a wrestling company gives us a press release, we would start to post those on our free tier at flagshippatreon.com, just to kind of let you guys know. And we obviously, we make it very known where we're getting these from, and very obvious that we're getting these press releases, because sometimes there's some decent news in them, and sometimes there's some decent room for some analysis with them as well. So that's something that we've kind of started to do a little bit. They're on the free tier. You don't need to pay to see them. You just need to sign up to see them at flagshippatreon.com. But we thought it's something that we would try out, see what people think, see if you guys like it. But yeah, let us know what you think of those. But again, a lot of bonus audio up there as well. Flagship Pluses, Thursday Dynamite review, Bret versus Owen, some additional stuff coming from me in the next couple of days as well. And then voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, and columns. voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. Make sure you go on there and join the conversation. And as we always say on these weeks, and especially on this week, when we are done here, stick with the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel, because the Mike and JD show is streaming live right now, and they have a guest of all guests. Former NFL star Shawn Merriman is on their show this week.
That's a shoot.
That's a shoot. I'm not kidding. If you're wondering, that's not a Mad Lib. What happened was Mike got into an argument with Shawn Merriman on Twitter, and then said, "Why don't you come onto my podcast?" And Shawn Merriman said, "Sure." And somehow, some way, Shawn Merriman is on their podcast this week. So,
2006 NFL sack leader,
big time star.
2005 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, 45 and a half career sacks. So for a couple years there with the Chargers, he was a fucking menace. I mean, he was a monster pass rusher. I think he had a WWE tryout after his retirement. There's wrestling connections there. They're going to discuss wrestling. They were discussing wrestling on Twitter. TNA and their television deal with, their television situation and those sorts of things. So, and I think Merriman is plugging some kind of streaming service that he's invested in or something.
Yes, he has a new streaming service as well. So he was actually signed or quote unquote joined the WWE family and was going to report to the Performance Center, but then never actually did that. So I don't know what the hell happened there. And he appeared on Impact once or twice and appeared on pre and post shows for the WWE or whatever. So yeah, he's got a wrestling connection. He's aware of the wrestling business. So it's not like they're just going to get him on here and he's going to talk about his streaming thing and then they're going to say, "All right, see you later, man." But man's going to talk
they're not
wrestling.
coming on to talk NFL. And then, there's going to be, I think it's going to be more Anthem television, TNA sort of discussion. And then the business that he's doing with them with his streaming deal. And some of the, because TNA is very big on those. I never know what they're called. Those weird
Yeah, what are those called?
television.
Linear network? They're not called linear networks. There's I forget
things
what they're
that
called.
come with the channels that come with your smart TV when you connect to the internet. I forget the term for those.
Yeah,
channels,
your
but
Flubos and your Plutos and all those, whatever
all that,
those are. Yeah, whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, and I think Merriman does business with TNA because they have TNA. I know on my TV, TNA has its own channel and they run the old pay-per-views.
Oh yeah, they're on everything.
Sometimes I'll throw it on. AAA used to have one of those, and they used to show old AAA shows from the 2000s. But yeah, so it's going to be a wrestling-related discussion. But yeah, and I think the interview's already in the can. I think they're going to, go live, and then they're going to go to the taped interview with Sean Merriman because Mike is in Hawaii, of course. So they probably Merriman was probably like, that don't work for me, brother. Midnight Eastern,
yeah. Mike's like, yeah, man, we come on at 11 p.m. Eastern. He's like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to pre-tape that, but
fast channels, free ad-supported streaming television. Fast.
That's it.
Fast channels.
That's the term I was looking for. So,
TNA smartly on all of those. There's always TNA content on all of those.
Yeah. It's
There's so many of them, and I don't know how you choose which one, and I don't really use any of them. So, sometimes I like them. I'll have them on in the background, but they play like the weirdest ads, and I don't know. I just kind of get.
It's like when Chris Mad Dog Russo wants to go home early, he'll tape an interview with like Steve Carlton in the morning, and then like a half hour before the show, all right, here's that bit with Steve Carlton. I'm gonna play that for you, and then and then he goes.
And he just ran to his car, or ran to his train.
He's out of there, and you got the Steve Carlton interview for the last 30 minutes of the show, talking about the 72 Phillies, or 72 Cardinals.
Yeah, what's there to talk about with Steve Carlton anymore? That hasn't been covered.
Well, listen, probably I guarantee you that 72 season where he won 27 games for a 70-win team.
Oh, God. All right, well, so go listen to that Mike and JD show with Sean Merriman right here on the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel. But that is it for us here on the Flagship Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. That is Joe. I am Rich. We'll talk to you again next time. Take care. Bye.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.